retreat meeting today, April 1st, 2024, 8:50 a.m. here at the Randy J. Manning Boardroom in Kirtland, New Mexico. We have an agenda, 1 routine matters. So I will call the meeting to order and verify quorum present through roll call vote. Vice President Aspis? Here. Secretary Wells is not here. Is he online? Board Member Montoya?
Present.
And Board Member So.
I'm present.
So there's 4 to make a quorum. 2, report B, performance-based budgeting by Kara Gonzalez. C, type of grants for our school district. D, FTE report. E, school board policy updates. 3, executive session, and 4, adjournment. But before we start, I would like to ask Superintendent Carlson to say a prayer and then to have a moment of silence for to the news that we had, if we could.
Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, this renewed month, and this springtime. We ask that you bless our time together and help us to focus on what's truly important, the students and the families of Central Consolidated School District and the communities of Kirtland, Shiprock, and Newcomb. We ask especially that you hold together the people in Shiprock who are affected this weekend by a tragic loss, and that you just hold those people close to you at this time. We ask your blessings for this day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. We will start, if there aren't any questions or any problems with the agenda, or any add-ons, any amendments, nothing, we'll move on to number 2, reports. A, program reports, starting with finance and human resources.
Good morning, everybody. Board President Haskey, Vice President Aspas, Board Member Montoya, Board Member So. So I gave you all the finance department goals and objectives, and it's also being projected up there. And I'll go through how this came together, just so you know where it came through. So the department, we came together to come up with a mission statement. We did this at the beginning, probably like in October-ish. And then I came up with what I felt like the department goals needed to be so that we could start moving the department into the areas and start meeting all the different goals and objectives. And then as we get after the goals and objectives, we did, let's see, and we'll hit on these in order. I let the department individually, without me being involved on both sides, both finance and HR, do the strengths, their weaknesses, the growth opportunities, and the challenges. And I think that's important because being new, it'll let me see what they feel the weaknesses, their strengths, and their challenges are, so that I can approach it from that standpoint. And so we'll go over those as we get through there. And then I went ahead and I came up with what I felt were the accomplishments, and a little bit with them. Where are we moving? What accomplishments have we seen? And then what are our next steps? And so I did that really quickly. And so to not take very long, we'll just go through the goals and objectives. But the first one being financial stability. The goal is to ensure that the organization has financial stability, and we achieve that by maintaining a balanced budget, optimizing cash flow, and establishing financial reserves. And then number 2 is cost efficiency, making sure that we're enhancing cost effectiveness and operational efficiency. And the objectives,
Let me get out of space. Okay.
we're good, okay. And so the objectives to achieve that are implementing cost-saving measures, streamlining processes, and negotiate advantageous vendor contracts. And I think the big key on this one is making sure we're streamlining processes. We've got a lot of processes, and are they the correct ones? Are we moving in the right direction? Third one is compliance, ensuring the adherence to financial regulations and standards, and making sure that everybody's updated on regulatory changes, conducting regular audits, and enforcing compliance protocols. And then number 4 is investment management, and the goal is to optimize returns on investments. Making sure that we're conducting thorough financial analysis, diversifying investment portfolios, and monitoring market trends. Right now, what I've seen and from when I came in, we only had a small amount of our money invested, and we were gaining interest at about $534,000. I went ahead and took another large chunk and invested it, and we should be getting in this next year $1.84 million off of that. I'm going to go ahead and take another look at it and see what else we can pull back into that and continue to get interest. So that interest alone is an increase of $1.3 million. So we need to continue looking at that kind of stuff, but making sure also that we're safe and we have enough to operate daily, but that we're also making money off of the money that we do have. Financial reporting, making sure that we have accurate and timely financial information, developing clear financial reporting systems, ensuring transparency, and communicating financial insights to stakeholders. That's key for any organization, and one of the things that we are trying to improve on and get better at. Risk management is a goal, mitigating financial risk. And so when we talk about that, identifying and assessing any financial risks, I hear, and I don't know much about it, but I get told every once in a while about the Christie stock, the other things. So that's where this goal comes into place. We've got to make sure that there are no risks. We're covering our holes, we know where those issues are, and have a plan to cover all that. Then number 7 is technology integration, making sure that we're leveraging technology for financial management. I think we do an okay job with that because we have a good accounting system. Now we've just got to get to where we ensure that we're utilizing the system to its fullest, making sure that everybody's aware of all of the what the system can do, and bringing in any other technology that might assist us with any of those goals that we have everywhere. Then number 8 is customer service, providing excellent service to internal and external stakeholders, making sure that we're improving communication, not only between ourselves, but specifically down to the school site levels. I think we still have a big gap there, but improving that communication, responsiveness, and collaboration with other departments and external partners. Then number 9 is training and development, making sure we have a developed and a skilled finance team, and providing ongoing training, encouraging professional certifications, and fostering a culture of continuous learning, and hoping that eventually we move to number 10, which is succession planning. The district really needs to look at ensuring leadership continuity within the department so that we can make sure that someone that's within the department grows as time goes, and that they could eventually take over the position of finance director and stay for multiple years because they're a local from the district. And that's the intent of that one, is kind of a grow your own. And so identifying and developing future leaders, creating succession plans, and providing leadership training. So that's where we're at with that one. And that gets us through all the goals and objectives. And like I mentioned on this next page, we've got the department came up with the strengths, their weaknesses, the growth opportunities, and the challenges. And so in the strengths, they identified that we have seasoned employees with 5+ years of experience, participation in continuous training. The AP and warehouse have great customer service. Warehouse is going above and beyond. Direction, changes in chart of accounts, and turnover in finance and leadership, in financial leadership. So the change in the chart of accounts, that's one of the things that we're trying to address right now. That was a change that was implemented by PED. And then when they came up with growth opportunities, they talked about improving customer service, technical skills for all district and staff meeting deadlines, procedures implemented to assist with meeting deadlines, and rollout year for GoFan and Clover. This is that.
So in terms of your challenges and weaknesses and these opportunities, have you also implemented or included the things that we had on our audit?
Yes, we're working on all of those. Yes.
Are they in part of these strengths and opportunities, weaknesses? I know that there were some repeat findings and so forth, and
Right.
I don't see them really listed on here.
So this was them doing, the department themselves, the employees and the staff. So this is what, from their eyes, what they saw. On my side, under accomplishments, I think I'm moving towards that and working towards those.
Okay.
So they mentioned on the rollout year for GoFan and Clover, and we do have some growth opportunities. That was brought up at that last training, that we still have a problem with the cashless and making it work and not having the correct connections and that kind of stuff. So we're still working on that. Challenges. I'm not sure exactly what they mean by contract processing due to the above weaknesses, other than I'm thinking they're feeling like without teamwork, without communication, that makes it difficult for them in the department to meet those, then providing a unified holistic training and customer service to schools. So I'm not sure if that challenge is because, I'm to be honest, I'm not sure. That's where I have to work with the department on these, and that's why I said I think this is a great place for me to actually meet with them and really work through what are you seeing and what do you believe are the challenges? Because I'm just going to be pretty much guessing, but just based on what they put in.
So why do you have two different? Why is your staff doing a whole evaluation and then you have a different one? Aren't you all working together? Is that one of the challenges that you're saying, that there's no teamwork in terms of the staff, and then with you as the head of the business management and HR, is that part of the issue?
So right now, I would say yes, there is a difference and a difficulty in that, because time is my biggest challenge right at the moment. Doing two departments, coming in brand new, learning, being thrown all these different things, it takes time to focus on all the different areas. So yes, I do believe that they feel like I'm not giving them the time, and I also feel like I don't have the time myself. So yes, I do feel like that's a big challenge.
I agree. It's been my concern, and looking at them, but I thought, things were working well, or and nobody really wants to come out and say. I'm so glad that you're honest, but those are probably two dominant departments, and as far as audits are concerned, those are pretty important, and then also the legal aspect of running the HR department. Mm-hmm. So it's my hope that we can get different directors or separate that again, because I feel like somewhere in there also, we're gonna have more legal fees and having to stay out of conflict of interest type of situations.
No, I agree. I 100% agree with you on all of that. And time is my biggest, that's my biggest enemy right now. is time.
But at the same time too, I don't know, it's always my concern, and just looking at, the different department heads, you're hired for a reason, and then when I hear, I've had those same concerns with our only employee superintendent, and then I find that, well, I give it back to them, I let them do this, but we hired you to run the district, and so I hope it's in reason, and again, that's what I've seen in the past, and it.
So we're working on it, and I am working on it. It's kind of like what's the biggest issue of the day? What's the biggest issue of the week? And so I do feel like we are moving towards progress in lots of areas. It's just not as quick as I would like it to be in one area or the other, because there's just not enough time. Yeah.
I just,
Comment.
yes, go ahead.
So I appreciate your candidness, just as what you said a little earlier. And what you just stated just now was the most important of the day, balancing, juggling. That really doesn't help the cause of the importance of both of the departments. If you can't focus, and the misnomer of a lot of people is to think that they can multitask. Task shifting is what you're doing. If you can't focus on one, and I'm not saying you in particular, but an individual, then what's the point? I mean, granted, an exercise and to see if this could work, and obviously from what you're saying, we're having challenges in both those areas. And your employees see that as indicative of their responses to what you put out there. I think it's important enough, the consideration certainly be, as we just stated here, to really think about moving that to two separate departments. So that way we don't get into those litigious situations on either side. And so, again, I just appreciate the fact that you're doing that, and the manner that you're doing that. I think, quite frankly, in my humble opinion, needs to be a serious reconsideration to move that to the two separate departments. So that way you can focus on the budget, because that's the last thing we need, is something to happen there in an audit finding where coulda, shoulda, woulda, and I was doing this when I really should have been doing this. We don't need that back and forth, especially with the amount of money that we have coming through our school district. We need to make sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's, not once, not twice, but 3 times, if not more. So we can have a clean slate every single year. It's like going in any one of these departments where we've had these audit findings to get to the point where we have none. So and that takes good management. You can't do that if you're bouncing around. So, and again, that's not a knock on you, but certainly the circumstance that you're in at this point in time to make sure we get back to where we need to be. That's all.
Well, thank you. I do feel like, I have to take responsibility for some of it. Sometimes, you do something and then where you're at didn't come out to be what you thought it was going to be. So you're like, I should have been focusing on this. That happens sometimes. But we do need to make sure that people are in the right positions and the right leadership as well. Because I think if you, have all that, it should run a little bit smoother. And if we have good processes and good procedures, then it should start running on its own pretty good. We got to get there first, though, and that's the biggest problem. We're not there.
I'm glad you just said right people in the right positions, and that comes with qualifications and getting to the point where we have people that are credentialed in these positions, who understand these positions all throughout, top to bottom, doesn't matter what department it is. Because certainly if they don't understand the seriousness of these positions and don't have the qualifications to give the right direction in these positions, and again, that puts us in a litigious situation where we could get sued, and that could cost a lot of money. So that is really key as well. So I appreciate you mentioning that too, because that is absolutely important. We need to have people that are credentialed and qualified and have a piece of paper to back up the position that they've applied for and are hired to. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm completely in agreement with what my colleagues have said. I think it's really good to know, for us to know what's working, what's not working. And I think even on the HR side, we have to do our due diligence to help support our employees, our staff members too. And when it's difficult, not just how important budget is, but also our employees, our staff, our workforce, to be able to support both areas 100%. So I think that's where we'll have to reevaluate that, because there are concerns, and it's not just audit, but it's also the well-being and the environment that our employees are in, that we have to support and figure those things out. So it's really good to know. So
And that's why I didn't take this out, sorry for interrupting you, because it, to me, was an eye-opener. And I met with them briefly, but I didn't go into it detailed, because this is where I know this first year for me has been learning this big district, learning the departments, learning how it flows, because it's so different than any other district. And trying to get, hey, we got to meet this, and this. And so I have been failing in that area of meeting with my department as well as much. But this tells me where I have to go. This is an eye-opener for me as well. It tells me, oh my gosh, these are what they're seeing and what their beliefs are. And I think to have that honesty is good for me, because I don't know that they would have said all this to me directly, except for putting it on a, hey, I need you guys to do this part for me, and be honest, I'm not going to be included in it. Because maybe if I were there, they might have been not as open and honest. So I'm glad with that. So, and then just to finish up, the inconsistent network connections on the web-based technology. So everything with our finance is all becoming web-based. And so I know their concerns are that we have to have consistent internet, and I know we're working on that. We are in a tough situation sometimes where it does kick us out, but I know we're working on that. Lack of participating in training offered, so examples, skills classes. And I know what they're talking about. They've offered for the department secretaries Excel and those kinds of things. But sometimes to me, offering somebody an Excel training is really not as important as teaching them their actual job duties and what their role is. So to me, to see that, I'm kind of like, well, I wouldn't have given them, I wouldn't have done that. That's not the area I would have gone. I wouldn't have gone that route first. First, you got to build the capacity, and then you got to go to that higher level training. So that, I see that. And then support from district admin and board. I'm not sure where they're talking about support from the board, but I do know support from me. I know they say that over and over and over again, that they have lack of support. One of the things that I do have to say in defense is my support always doesn't mean agreeing with everything that they're doing. Sometimes my support is saying, you've got to see this big picture, and this is where we're at. And so a lot of times I'm not going to agree, and that doesn't mean that I don't support them. I don't agree a lot of times in how we're handling certain things. And so if that's where they're going with that, I have to also say that I can support if I feel it's in the best interest overall for the district and it's moving us the right way. So I think that's where that's coming from. But as far as the board, I'm not sure where they're saying no support from the board. So I couldn't even answer that for you.
Yes.
So, I'm trying to formulate this in a way that, so as you were talking about Excel, and I think the best analogy for me to use is, you know, I have over the years been, you know, have different foremen, different supervisors, and I try to not say, well, this is how we've done it all these years, or under different direction, this is how it is, unless it's, I know it's supported by code, you know, our electrical code. But I believe that that's why he was probably brought in, is for his experience, for his, and so I hope you catch what I'm saying.
Yes, absolutely. I think that the biggest thing is changing the mindset of we've been doing this always this way and we're going to continue to do this way. Is it, I mean, we have to look at, is it the best for the district? Is it creating the best efficiencies? Is it creating the best effectiveness? Is it meeting what it is? And I see a lot of that kind of stuff that does need to be changed. So I agree with you. If I don't want to change anything, if it's working, but if there's a more effective way, a more efficient way, then we need to really look at those types of things. So that's where I'm at. But I get you.
But you know, the factors for me, all I have to look at is if it's legal, if it's safe, and if it's up to code. But for in our business here, it's gonna have different factors to it, and the biggest one is the student and community. And so, you know, with the cashless, I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah.
You know, as much as we want to push it, as much as we want to, you know, especially if it's a constant audit finding, you know, but we're not there yet. We're not there, and we would be doing a real disservice to our community. You know, I know it's put like it's a simple transition, but I don't think so. As a community, we're still not there yet.
And I agree with that. I think we pushed out, you know, they talk about the growth opportunities, the GoFan and Clover. That was a little bit done before my time and I stepped in on it. I truly believe that if we're gonna roll something out from the finance department, we need to have vetted it all the way through. We need to make sure that, you know, the biggest issue is in the locations, do we even have the internet to support it? That wasn't even worked on with Mr. Venturina. And so I think us just having an idea and saying, let's go with it right away, I think that might have been what was happening from what I've heard a little bit. We need to not be so quick and do those types of things right off the bat. We need to be careful, diligent, really research what's best, and then go from there and make sure that before we roll it out, we have all of our processes in place, our procedures in place, and we don't have that. So we're working a little bit harder right now than we should be. We've got to get processes in place and understand where we're at and go from there. So, no, I agree with you. Next. Move on to next.
Smarter, but not harder.
Smarter, yes. Yeah, trying to. And so then in accomplishments, I just want to say that, you know, we worked hard this year, and we're still working hard right now with audit. We've actually been working with Mr. Manning on his forms. He gives us a spreadsheet or multiple spreadsheets that have to be filled out in order to meet his compliance, and we're already working on those. But one of the things I asked him is, I'm not sure that this was done. I asked him when I came in, because he had been here previous to my time. I said, I don't think they understand all the spreadsheets. I don't even think they understand the why behind them. And I think a lot of times if you don't understand the why and you're just filling out the spreadsheet just to fill it out, you're kind of like, I don't even know why I'm doing this. It doesn't make no sense. But if you understand that, it makes a huge difference. And so he's going to be coming in to work with them and my whole department to say, this is how you fill it out, and this is what I'm looking for, and this is why we're doing it. And once we get that why, and we know what our job is and what he's looking for as an auditor and why we're doing that, our findings should really significantly start to reduce. Now, will they reduce immediately? No, it's going to take some time, because this is what happens with an audit. As you're being audited, okay, so he's auditing for the prior year all the way up until like October. When they're auditing in October, they're actually auditing the current year. So anything that he writes up for the previous year will probably still be a finding for the current year. Because if it was happening previously, it's going to continue happening here. So to get things off of the books and findings take a couple of years by the time you get the systems into place, this stuff. So don't look at it as, oh my gosh, they're not making any improvement. We are making improvement. It's just not going to be as quick as we would think it would need to be. And so that's the part, that big part. So we are on timely, we submitted that timely audit, and that came off of our finding, and that's a huge finding that to take off, because everybody looks at that. If you can't submit a timely audit, then that means some things are going wrong. So that's a huge accomplishment. Timely quarterly reports. We are working hard to make sure that we do not miss any quarterly reporting, because any district that reports late from now on immediately moves to monthly reporting. And if you go to monthly reporting, you're going to have to start having a lot more communication with them. They're not going to be as lax anymore as they were in the past. Anybody that had a move to a monthly, their audits were moved first. I mean, not their audits, their budgets were moved first. We were able to move ours back a little bit so we could do some more work on it, because we've got to change those chart of accounts and everything like that, but we're working towards fixing all of that, so we're in there. We're working on the reduction in Bank of America issues. We're still having some Bank of America issues, and I need to have an actual conversation with Bank of America myself and say, I need to know why these things are continuously happening, because maybe we need to look for a different vendor. If Bank of America cannot meet our needs, maybe we need to see if there's somebody else that can meet our needs, and maybe that's where we're at. I don't know, but I do need to look into that, but we are making better changes in there. Increased collaboration with federal grants, with DART, student support, and other departments. And I got that from a department, a few departments. It said, we're seeing a lot of increased collaboration. I give credit to, and I talked about the federal side, I think what was happening in the past with the RFR process, the grants and how they work, there wasn't the training and the knowledge that needed in that department. And so I've been really focusing in that area, because to me, when you have federal findings and federal issues, that's where you're going to get the district and the biggest problems. So I've really, really been focusing with my federal side a lot this year, and I've seen great improvement, great success in that. Then breaking down and identifying system barriers. We have a lot of barriers, And a lot of them are systems in place. I think sometimes we're so concerned about not getting in trouble, we're creating a lot more steps than are probably necessary. You know, trying to stay in compliance and being very careful. So we just get to figure out what is the right one for that. And then working towards building capacity, and I think everybody is there. I think we're working as a group in improving the efficiencies and building capacity of everybody. If they have been doing something for years and it really wasn't possibly the most efficient or the right way, we're really not building capacity because we don't understand the whole big picture and that kind of stuff. So we're working on that. I feel like my accomplishment here is explaining the why. I think that is what has been missing in the finance department a lot in the past with the directors that they've had. If you cannot explain the why of your doing something and you don't understand the why, again, it all comes back to doing things inappropriately or not doing it correctly because we don't understand the why. Implementation of systems. So we've really included the departments in the audit and other meetings to clarify for them the why. And again, I'll be inviting them as well when Mr. Manning comes to explain all his different department spreadsheets. And I think that's key because then they're involved with it. Whereas when I came in, everybody said, that's not my job. I don't do that part. But they have to do that part because that's their area. I mean, our department can't do it all, you know, because when you think about it, it goes like this. It's, you know, it's built up. When we're up here, we're managing for all the different departments. It's too hard to do all of the work and be efficient and effective. So we got to get there. Getting some more trust and support from PED, having a more mutually enjoyable relationship. I think they understand. They know I understand what the problems are, and they know that we're working towards those problems. So I think if we can continue working on that relationship, getting everybody in that area, I think we'll be good with that. And then bringing new eyes and light to issues within the department. Again, if we're only doing the same thing over and over again without new eyes looking on it, we don't know if we don't know. You know what I mean? We really don't know. So that's where I'm at. And then our audit issues. We're going to begin improving year to year as implementation of these new processes occur. So that's where we're at with that on accomplishments. And then when we go to next steps, we're working on right now submitting a thoughtful and well-developed budget that implements the chart of account changes that were required this year so that FY25 year starts well. So we've got a lot of work to do because the district has been functioning on a department level expenditure when in fact PED and everybody went to a school site or site-based expenditure reporting. It was enforced this year and we're not there. And so we've got to break all that out. We've got to move towards that and we're working on that. And so that's our next steps. I'll touch on this a little bit more as we go through performance-based budgeting and where I think we need to go with that, but I'll stop right there. Then finishing the year strong, ensuring that purchases are paid for on time and RFRs can be processed. So one of the big difficulties of the district has been not understanding that June 30th is June 30th. You have all your federals that have to be paid for and reimbursed by July 7th. If that doesn't happen, all those get out of the federal grants, come into the operational. So that needs to stop because we need so that we can keep that flow going. I just think that was a misunderstanding that you could just pay bills forever, it didn't matter. They could cross the fiscal year or whatever. And I think that was just from not having someone in here that understood that, no, you can't do that. That has to be fixed. So we're working hard on that.
So if, you know, that's the first I'm hearing, you know, from financial director on things like that. And if that happens, I hope you bring it to us. And because I think there's a lot that happens before, and especially with interims, superintendents, and, you know, and not being consistent. A lot of that has really just gone by us. And so I hope if that should happen, that we can see, you know, and give us an example of, and so that we can, you know.
So I think that there needs to be always transparency, even if the transparency is ugly at the time, and we have to make it a conscious effort to fix it. I am very big on not losing a dime, not losing a penny, making sure those are my biggest passions. I think because when you lose on the federal side, you also lose on the operational side, and it's a double whammy for the district.
And
You lose the funding, but you also are paying for it in another area.
And at this time, I mean, we are still, and you were saying without the ESSERs, you know, money's gonna get tight. And so, yeah, people are gonna have to understand that. And, you know, with the closures happening, and, you know, that we are really counting on federal funding. And so, if we mess that up, then, you know, where else are we gonna look? So, yeah, it is important.
And federal is hard, and I can't say that it's all the district's issue. You know, PED I think has gotten better this year because we're finally getting carryover at a decent time. Last year was tough. We got carryover in May on a lot of funds. I don't even know, some might have even come in June, I don't even know, but I remember having to spend at another district till the last hour trying to get it all spent. And in a smaller district, it's not as hard as a bigger district like this. In a bigger district like this, we better know what we're gonna do, we better have ideas already planned out, what's our process gonna be, and I think we're there. It's just getting, you know, everything on the machine has to be oiled and filled up with gas and running smoothly to get us where we need to do. And we're breaking down sometimes. We're just having a few breakdowns. I mean, that's the best way I could explain it.
I think also if you could let us know as a board where you're having those barriers. I know that we can't control how quickly the funding comes in, but we definitely have a say on some of the processes that are in place. And maybe they're outdated for the systems that are current. So that would be where we would need your assistance to actually get some guidance and some recommendations on how to improve our internal systems too, in helping with the spending too. So just keep that in mind while you're continuing on this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And then prepare for the audit, ensure that it's smooth and timely. We're already started on that. We're working on that currently as we speak. Review of positions and job descriptions eventually. I think that is a key part of this, looking at the roles and responsibilities of each position, ensuring alignment and duties are in sync. And the reason I say that is for a district this big to only have one AP person, that is just beyond me. I don't know why we would even have that structure, because you've got 16 schools, all these departments, and one person paying the bills. There's no way that is going to create getting us to where we need to be. That's why there was these issues with paying June 30th is an issue, and it shouldn't be. So I've got to relook at working that out and making, how is that going to work? How will that fit?
Okay, when do we drop Dream Dinner?
June 30th. Well, we have to carry them through June 30th and then whatever reporting we have left to
Okay,
do.
and how much, I guess percent-wise, is that gonna free,
Nothing.
really?
Yeah, they only bill, as a matter of fact, I met with them now during spring break and I said, I really need you to RFR us because what happens a lot of times is they wait until the end of the year and then their stuff doesn't get processed and then it's still our liability to get it done. So they did 2 funds, I think, last week.
Mhm.
So we're working on those. But I did tell her, I don't care if it's $300, invoice us. We need to get this moving
Mhm.
and we need to keep this going. So it's really not gonna affect us a lot.
I mean, as far as your workload.
No, it's not gonna affect us
Okay.
very much, no. And then begin looking at training that is needed for next year and how it'll be rolled out to support schools and departments. You know, I think I really need to sit and see, are we giving the right training to them? Or are we just kind of throwing them out there and, you know, here's your whatever, figure it out. And if, you know, how do we make it so that everybody understands, you know, what their role is in their job? And so I think that's where I need to probably really meet with my department as well as each of the sites and the department secretaries to see where are we failing? What did you get and still need and what did somebody else get and is not, you know, missing? Now I did, and I know we've started this, is with the new hires, we are bringing them in and giving them a lot more support initially before just letting them out. So we have started that process, but now I need to just follow through and see, are we giving them still enough? And that's where I need to go with that.
Got a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So in that number 9, review of positions, a supervisor for them?
Not that I'm aware of. They are evaluated by the principals, and so that's where we have to have a little bit more training and consistency and that kind of stuff.
So they determine their job description?
I don't know if that's where that came from. I would assume that the job description comes from us, but then they're evaluated by the principals.
Especially considering what they're doing
Yeah.
and the load that they have to do. Just as you're saying, in any position that you have down there in administration, that would apply to them as well.
Yeah.
And then, again, if they have purview, the principals have purview of assigning duties.
Torn because they have so many responsibilities probably in the school, and that's where we're looking at how does that look, you know?
I
Do
don't
we
know.
come back to,
Just going by what you're saying, the alignment of the duties are in sync.
yeah, we
That
need
would
to,
apply for anybody, really.
yeah,
frankly.
no, I agree. So the big thing is making sure that we give them what they need, and I don't know that we're there yet, and then also looking at, because I know something that's been thrown out to me is maybe we'd be more efficient if we did have them internally and then they did the purchasing that way. But then you're taking it away from the site base. I don't know, I'd have to really look at that.
If they're performing all the same types of duties in respect to their responsibilities that they've been hired for, you're a financial clerk, you're a financial clerk. You're not a safety supervisor in the building. I mean, that,
Right, but I
Is
think
that
I think they're given additional duties,
Yeah.
and that's the hard part.
but that's my point, I'm saying
controlling
if
that.
it's segregated and coming out of admin, to your point of the audits and audit findings, where's the weight and what's the most concerning?
No, I agree. No, I agree.
Go ahead.
Well, On the new eyes that we were talking about, is that additional auditors or?
No, I meant by like me, looking at
Okay.
new things. You know, me, the new person coming in and seeing, hey, this is what I see. And I'm not saying that, you know, I have the know-all. I just have a different perspective. I know where, you know, PED's looking, I know what the auditors are looking for, that kind of stuff. So that's where I'm trying to make that point. And then, let's see, review deadlines and ensure that our deadlines are meeting the needs of the students, staff, departments, and school sites. And that pertains more to like, we've got to get our systems in place to where we are moving like a well-oiled machine so that we can cut off purchasing and stuff in a timely date so that we can meet the needs. But we also need to understand too that we've got departments that continue operating year round, and so we can't be making everything for one fit for all. We might have to have some flexibility. We might have to have some that kind of stuff, looking at what is reasonable and where we're at. So that's what we're looking at for next steps. And then identify and address productivity weaknesses and unnecessary processes. And again, everywhere we go, that's, I mean, we talk about this all the time with needs assessments and looking at that. So we need to work on those. And then improvements in all areas of finance and working towards our department mission, which is creating that communication and collaboration with everybody. So there's a lot of areas for us to improve on and work on, but that's where we're going. We're working on all of those things. And then that covers it for the finance.
Okay. I just have a couple of questions. What are your efforts? You talked about collaboration. What are your efforts, your current efforts to collaborate with other departments?
So right now, like I said, because time is a big, that's my fail right now, is not enough time. I do need to collaborate more with departments on more consistent meetings and being able to make those meetings. I do now currently meet with anybody that's in crisis, and we shouldn't be operating in crisis mode. We're operating on, instead of being proactive, everything I'm doing right now is reactive. And so I've got to make improvements in those areas. And so I can honestly say that's a big area of improvement.
Because I know that we have grants in ICO that are coming in, and those could be overlooked if you're not having that collaboration. So I hope that part improves.
Yeah, and I meet with Dr. Lopez a lot. It seems like we're always having one concern or another that we're having to work through, and that's where we need to get is we've got to get to where everything we have, every issue is documented and there's a procedure in place, and we don't have that here, which surprises me. As many years as this school has been operating, you would think that there would be lots of that going on, and we're missing some of that. And if we do have it, possibly we probably do. Somebody that has it is not the one that's sharing it, or it's not out there. So we need to make that out there and get that. And so we need to come up with, I used to work for an REC years ago, and the first thing, that was one of the things I did, was I created a large manual of procedures, and we tried to, every time some variable came in that we'd never worked with before, we would try and go and revamp our procedures so that we address that new issue, so that we could eventually get to say, hey, did you look at page 45 of the procedures manual? It covers it in there, and this is how you handle it. And that's where I think we need to get, and we're just not there. Yeah.
Can I say something? As department head, I know Carol was saying she's not meeting, but my department, student support, meets with Dom. So we do meet with finance. So if it's not Herbie or Dom, we may not meet directly with Carol herself, but I just wanted to clarify that the department is meeting with ours. So we have set meetings and
Exactly.
but even if she's not there, at least
Somebody in our
somebody's
department is
there and they're helping us. So
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify that because she was saying she's not. Maybe she's not, but the department is meeting with our department.
And I can speak for the operations department. We meet with Herbie and the group at least once a month because we have so much going on to make sure that revenues are there. We're prepared for everything that's coming down the line. I think we have a meeting this week with the department just to touch base, just to see where we're at. So, not that we're leaving Carol out, but she's aware that her team is meeting with us and that
And I
we're
apologize, I didn't
forecasting
say that.
out.
Yeah, I just,
I do
you know,
apologize.
I know
Yeah,
that.
thanks, guys.
I am one of the departments that we do work all year round. So it's very difficult when we start closing POs early because I don't have a crystal ball and I can't say what's gonna break or what might come up in operations. So, you know, my department is unique because we don't stop. We
But
have to continue.
I guess just as an encouragement to continue to collaborate and maybe
Yes.
even more so because of this where we have just one person focused on it and you know, these things directly coming from the staff saying that that's an area where they need to would be, it's also telling, saying that they want more, that they need to in terms of challenges and weaknesses, they're saying it too. So although there might be collaboration once a month, maybe it needs to be more. Because this, you know, with the funding and the grants, all of those are fluid. They're just coming in and out of the district, and those things need to continue. Any other comments?
Yes. So, what department are you in, Ventura?
Data assessment, research, and technology.
So do you have that same collaboration with like Candace?
Yes, and I just wanted to share with all the big, since last year, our biggest project in the IT department, we've been meeting with finance department to make sure that the correct line items are placed in our department so we can proceed on those projects. And I'd like to mention that actually it's coming from Herbie, the lateral collaboration within the coordinators. I think that's been a successful one. Even, you know, without us, the director, in that meeting, we are aware that that's happening at the same time, you know, making things that are, you know, progressing and making sure that the project is on timeline, the due dates are being met and so on. So that's one big factor when our, you know, our yellow folder, our records retention project has been ongoing, and I think it's very successful because of that collaboration with finance, along with, you know, our gifted department too. Like, we never been a department, however, making sure that there's a fund that is available for our kids to go and get trained, our teachers get trained on several requirements by PED. I think that's something that has been, for the last a year and a half, has been a successful one. And we do, yes, we used to have like a monthly meeting, but since our big project's kind of like, you know, rolling on its own now, we're scheduled to have one this year, this month, April, so that we can have our budget for next year set up. So.
Now, what about yourself, Bellamy?
Oh, well, we're very similar. So Dom is our go-to because he's their grants accountant. So I'm going to tell you 3 times a week at minimum, we're with communication. If it's not us over there, him over in our side, it's just Erica and I. So it's a little easier maybe when it's just the two of us. So it's constant communication. Or it's chat in Gmail, you know, if we can't break from the desk, but it's really strong.
And one of the things I wanted to bring up too is we have a coordinators PLC that, it's ongoing. And so all the coordinators get together, but the directors have been participating as well, but I'll let, Mr.
Yeah.
Deswood.
So we there's a lot of cross collaboration going on. One of them is during our principal PLC meeting. So that way there's a connection between everything at central office with the principals. So every month, the departments will send stuff to the principals and give them information. And then we also have academic planning, so ICO, DART, SSO, ICO and grants. So then we're working and letting each other know what's going on, where we need help and support. And then we also, like Carol said, we created a coordinator PLC for them to be. I guess this happened before, which is what everybody was saying. So then I was like, well, let's let them plan together. And just last week, I sent an email out to the director saying, why don't we let this truly be a coordinator PLC, so that, and then we can, as directors, we can just read the minutes of the PLC, so that we're just reading as opposed, and then letting the coordinators just talk amongst themselves about, you know, what's going on in their department, so they work collectively. And then I actually meet with Carol in finance. We have a standing meeting every 2 weeks, just so that some of the issues that we're seeing within the schools, they're letting me know, so that I'm holding the schools accountable. Like right now, I'm sending messages for like deposits and I can't remember what the other one was.
The Bank of America.
Bank of America
issues.
statements, trying to make sure that that's all together. But anyway, before, like, I feel like our collaboration has improved this year because, you know, we're working together a little bit more. Everybody knows each other. We're a lot more comfortable with each other working together. So just want to add that.
And that's helping us with his input, because we need all those items from the school sites in order to meet our compliance deadlines. Because if we're not getting those in, we can't reconcile the bank statements and then create the quarterly reports on time. So it's really helping in that area.
Right. And I know Board Member Montoya asked a question earlier about the job description of the principals. Those are some of the things that we're trying to tighten up. Is there seemed to be a disconnection with that, and I feel like people were afraid to hold people accountable for like missed deadlines. I know Steve's been really, challenging us to meet these deadlines. Likewise, we're asking and trying to be more accountable for those misstatements. Why are we missing them? And that's some of the root cause that we did to try to improve that. And Carol talked about making sure that our financial secretaries know the process procedures, and then they know what their roles are. So a lot of principals are sitting down, well, not a lot, I'd say maybe 2 or 3 principals haven't sat down with their financial secretaries to review the job description and try to prevent some of those unnecessary or additional duties to be placed on them. Thank you.
And I've even asked my staff if they have someone that's continuously having the same, issue over and over again. Maybe we need to actually sit with them and go through the process together and say, come over, let's go over the Bank of America statement together, bring all your documents, let's do it all together, because maybe they don't understand the whole process or the importance, or understanding that everything that everybody else does drives what we do. And so if there's a delay over there, it's a delay on us. And so that's where we've got to get things better. So, and we're working on it. We really are. There's a lot going on. It's just, it's not going to be as quick as we would like, sometimes.
So, a few years back, there was a particular person that would walk up to a school and people saw that person and, right away they knew something bad was going to happen. And that's not the atmosphere that I want to create and or be a part of. And that's not what I'm, you know, I think if people know that it's okay to be wrong, but, you know, take time to correct it and so that, because it has a cascading effect. And so, especially with our finances and something that we have to really protect as you know, our economy and I mean, the rest of New Mexico, the other districts, some of them who didn't have their power plant and mining shuttered, you know, their only one crisis is inflation, which is national. But here we have all of this, and then I believe you can actually say COVID as well. You know, we're still in the aftermath, you know, of what happened there, and so I think our district and our area is pretty unique, and in those situations, and then also in your you had one with your investments.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about that, but did we make sure that if we paid it off early, that we get some type of benefit from it or some type of credit?
So this is investments, like investing our actual cash balances.
Mm-hmm.
So it has nothing to do with what we owe and any of our other issues. This is taking what money we have and don't let it sit in our bank. It's actually trying to invest it and get as much off of it right now. Because when you're in a recession type issue like this, that's when your interest rates are the highest. Unfortunately, you have the cash, that's when you can make the most money. So like I said, we're gonna go from earning about $500,000 from what was invested to 1.8 million. So we're gonna get an additional 1.3 off of that. And now I just need to start really looking at and finding the time.
Is that a conservative investment?
Right now I'm
or-
being very conservative, but at the
Okay.
time, it's all fluid. So if I needed it, I could draw it down. And that's where we have to be careful is how am I need to really look at where are we going in the next couple of years and what kind of money are we going to bring in, what can be invested, and what do we need monthly. And that's where we need to go on our next round of
And
everything.
I guess that's concerning because, you know, that's with our recent negotiations, you know, myself, I was hoping that they would put back the pension instead of 401. But anyhow, that didn't happen. It just seems like it's more stable and more trustworthy than the 401. But in this investment, I'm just hoping it's careful.
Yes.
You know, that-
Yes. I'm working very closely with the company and making sure that anything, if at any point in time, I can just pull it right back out. You know,
Mhm.
there's not gonna, if we needed that money right now, we would be able to have it. But it's trying to plan and make money off of our money rather than just letting it sit there. Just so we can get a little bit more. That's the reason.
I just wanted to share, we went kind of fast, but I just wanted to share that we've been working, since my department is a lot of just grants mainly. So we've been working, Dom was our assigned person, so we've been working with Dom on that, especially because our JOM is always passes the deadlines for June. So we've been working with Dom and I've set up trainings for the clerical with Herbie.
Yes.
President, if I may add also the ongoing kind of like effort for us to keep our students. Remember, you know, I hate to say this, that each of our students generate those funds for us, but we're still losing kids or students in our surrounding school districts. if we are able to tighten our curriculum, our offerings, our different services that we have for the district, I think we can pull them back, and at least some portion. And I'm just getting some numbers here. We're losing about 100 to 150 students in the surrounding districts, and it's about 1 million that we're losing based on that numbers alone. We have not accounted those students that are out of state. We only have the mechanism to look at within the New Mexico school system, where we will know where they are. However, again, that corresponds to decreasing funds for the school district. So I just wanted to add that.
Can we promote Dom? No, just kidding.
Tom is doing
He
excellent,
does,
yeah.
He does such a good job.
We're all doing good. We just have to make some, little improvements here and there.
If there aren't any other questions, then we'll move on to the second item.
Okay.
Yeah,
So same basic layout, little bit different on the, where did my department mission go with? Let me see, is it on there? Let's see. Yeah, there it is. I'm missing it on this one. The department mission statement is HR will serve employees well in order to serve the students and community. Every person for which we have contact will feel valued. Thanks. So that's where we're working with on our mission. And in terms of goals and objectives, number one is making sure we have good talent acquisition, attracting and retaining top talent, developing effective recruitment strategies, enhance employer branding, and optimize the hiring process. I think we do a great job in this area, but we can always make improvements in retaining top talent. Two is employee development, fostering continuous learning and professional growth, implementing training programs, providing career development opportunities, and supporting skill building initiatives. And so number three, workforce diversity and inclusion, cultivating a diverse and inclusive workplace, and then developing diversity initiatives, ensuring equal opportunities, and promoting the culture of inclusion. So making sure that we meet all of those. Number four is performance management, enhancing individual and organizational performance, establishing clear performance metrics, conducting regular evaluations, and providing constructive feedback. And so I think we have that because we already have the structure in place for all of that with the teacher, what is it called? I can't remember the, yeah, that'll be. And then employee engagement, boosting employee satisfaction and commitment. Conducting employee surveys, fostering a positive work environment, and implementing employee recognition programs. I think this is what you were talking about earlier, was talking about making sure that we're meeting the needs of the employees as well as all the other areas. Then number six is succession planning. Ensuring leadership continuity, identifying and development future leaders, creating succession plans, and providing leadership training. And that's always the case, whether it be from anyone becoming a vice or assistant principal to principal, and thereon forward. So just making sure we're growing our own within the district. Employee wellness, promoting a healthy work-life balance, implementing wellness programs, offering mental health support, and encouraging work-life balance practices. And then 8 is HR technology integration, enhancing HR processes through technology, implementing advanced HR software, automating administrative tasks, and improving data analytics for decision-making. Just like in finance, I think we're doing a pretty good job here. We're looking at a new software now for our hiring. We're looking at making sure that everything is archived so that we're not trying to still continue living out of boxes and going electronically a little bit more to that area. And I'm trying to think. I think that's pretty much it about that. The 9 is legal compliance, is ensuring HR practices comply with labor laws and regulations. And then staying informed about any legal changes, conducting regular compliance audits, and providing staff training on relevant laws. And so that's number 9. And then number 10 is employee relations. Fostering positive employer-employee relationships, addressing workplace conflicts, providing grievance resolution mechanisms, and maintaining open lines of communication. And that covers those goals and objectives. And then just like the finance, the HR completed this as well, the strengths, the weaknesses, the growth opportunities, and the challenges. And the strengths are continuing cross-training, teamwork and collaboration within the department, customer service and support, consistent new hire orientation, and collaboration with ESS, the substitution, our substitute system. Then our weaknesses, that new hire paperwork is still in hard copy, so we're needing to transition to electronic. We need the personnel files still to archive electronically. We're working on that, but it's still not there yet. Need space to ensure confidential meetings with staff. And then need to prioritize school visits throughout the school year. And so we need to focus on that in that area. Growth opportunities, FMLA and workers' comp training to supervisors, continue CBA training to supervisors and principals. We offered all of this back in the fall. Everybody really liked it, and I think we need to probably do it twice a year. And then new applicant tracking portal, annualize the HR training to supervisors and principals, staying up to date with employment laws and legislative updates. So we're working on those. And then challenges, the background check equipment will need to be purchased. So this was a change now that just occurred. So I'm not sure how much that's going to cost, but we will have to purchase that for ourselves. Again, the lack of space to have confidential conversations, department silos, and I believe that comes from, I know that we do have some challenges between the departments on getting, the paperwork and meeting with each other and talking. So we do have some of that. And this is from their eyes. And then no mechanism to audit leave district-wide. And that's probably a big one. It's all on a honesty system, I guess, because there really is no way to do some of that. And then time to create meaningful data-driven surveys. And so those are some of the challenges that the department has come up with. And then if we move on to accomplishments, there is a new applicant tracking platform, the clerical support to ESS. So we're working with the, ESS is our company that does all the substitute processing. And then hired 34 national teachers, the signing bonus to newly hired staff, consistent sessions for new staff orientation, staff fingerprints and background checks are up to date. The job descriptions are updated for school site staff. CBA and HR training for administrators. Streamline the staff ID badge and key card issuance. Working in collaboration with all of Cabinet on FTE alignment and review. Revise the ADA accommodation form. We're revising the workers' comp packet and begin using the ICE portal through CCMSI. Added the OSHA tool in the ICE portal for workers' comp for recording cases. Revised the fitness for duty certification form. We met the ACA 1095C reporting deadline of 3/1 and to the IRS before 4/1. We submitted the part-time benefits resolution to NIMSIA for the 24-25 school year. Ongoing EAP webinar and outreach for employees to have access to that system. And we started an HR monthly newsletter to get a lot more communication out to the departments and school sites. And so that's the accomplishments of the department. We're also working on a, it's called Go Guardian. I didn't put it on there because we're still working on it. But it is a system that we will take all of our, any cases, any write-ups, anything to do with the system, and we're starting to implement it so that we don't have all of our stuff just spread all over the place. It's an actual system that will track all of the cases, and we'll be able to, should be able to save them so that it's easy to find the information rather than just in a Google Drive. And so we're working towards that, but I didn't put that on there because we're not there yet. It's not a true accomplishment yet. We're still working on it. So next steps, we're still working on the file archive, upcoming years of service retirement. So we're working on that for the year end. We're in union negotiations right now. We're looking at position review for FTEs, getting ready for issuing out letters of intent and contracts. We've got to get the connection year rollover for fiscal year 24 and 25, and with that, that includes new salary schedules and that kind of stuff, updating the benefits, etc. Getting ready for audit preparation and review of positions and job descriptions, again, looking at the roles.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is the process for determining FTEs increasing or decreasing? What are you basing that on?
So right now, what we did with cabinet is we sat in, I don't know how many have we had, 3?
I think Leondra's presenting.
Yeah.
Leondra's presenting on that.
Oh yeah, he's gonna present on that. Do you wanna wait, or do you wanna?
Okay, yeah, we'll wait, but
For the FD.
just.
But
as a-
basically, we've met in collaboration multiple times, and we've started going through looking at what does the numbers look like, where are we at, but as a group, we've been going through each of those.
And I guess my question, since it's a huge deal, I think that the board needs to be involved in that, to listen in, at least to provide input. I mean, these are, I think after the fact is usually when we hear about it, but I would like to have a little more involvement in those conversations through, I don't know, a representative from the board to be sitting on there as you're having these discussions. Because of the situation in light of the district, how the funding is, all these different things, I think it would be really good as a representative. I don't know what your thoughts are as board members. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I've said that before in questioning
Mhm.
some of these decisions. You start going through the year and then requests are made for positions, and again, that's a direct hit on the budget itself. And is that something that was discussed prior to, especially at the beginning of the years when those budgets are turned in or we're reviewing them?
Mhm.
And again, everything that I've said is predicated off student outcomes and how that affects that to justify the differences between the wants and the needs. So I absolutely agree, because again, that's considering where we are, that's a direct hit on that budget that we have, and it's becoming more and more limited to what we can do with it. And have to be more focused on how we utilize that funding. So I absolutely agree. But we, at least, if not in that decision process, certainly being made aware of these things so we can make a better determination at the end of the year and how we best utilize that funding and where we apply the use of that funding, especially in regards when, as we all know, that labor in of itself is the biggest cost to one's budget. And to just start creating positions here and there,
Right.
just in this time, doesn't cut it.
Oh, I agree.
And I think in light of what you just had mentioned in your previous presentation, or specifically in your role, having the dual hats, you know.
Yes, because I see, can we afford it? And then you go,
It's, can
Yeah,
you afford
it's-
it, or is it, I mean, what kind of
Necessary.
decisions are being
Yeah.
made in terms of the district? I think that's where, as a board, I think, and my recommendations, just like in the audit or other areas where we have those, where a board member sitting in on those conversations, that would be something that I would like to see, because I don't want to, I think we've asked time and time again to be a part of those conversations, and it's always been after the fact, and we've always just been given, okay, you all approve or not. And I think we need to really start having those conversations of effectiveness.
Right.
And the district as a whole moving forward to be efficient and effective, and making those decisions with all the information at hand would be better than just rubber stamping. And that's kind of something that I think we've gotten into the practice of, and I would prefer, and if superintendent were here, I would have that conversation to say we need to have a board member sitting on that conversation to be the liaison for the other board members, to maybe be the fly on the wall to listen in, and then also to have that conversation, to bring it back to the board where we are more actively involved in how this is, because the board members, we as board members are up in DC advocating for more funding. We are at the state level advocating for more funding. It would just make sense that we're sitting at the table also when we're talking about FTEs and how many more positions are we creating, or how are we decreasing. We need to be, I think that's where I would recommend is having us at the seat too. Yes.
If I may add also, during those discussion, we make sure that the principals and some of the assistant principals are also part of the conversation. And it's in my report, the statutory requirements of average class sizes, based on elementary, middle school, and high school. So that would be something that you guys will really wanted to look at, so that you can advocate for us for of course, based on our numbers, or based on our population that we have so far, to get that funding going. So I'll have that in mind.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm glad that there's a lot of people at the seat, but I think there's one of the board members should be there also at the seat, at the table, when those conversations are being had too. Anything else? Okay, continue please.
So that's it for this, and then I don't know, I'll have more after, like, the FTEs tie kind of into performance-based budgeting, but we'll have all that conversation.
I do want, Madam President,
Yes,
and I'll give the opportunity to the others at the first round on the retreat to
yes.
have them give the explanation of why she's doing what she's doing, why she does what she does.
If you could.
My wife?
What is your job? What do you do?
So I think, like almost everybody that's in here, I think my why is the dedication and commitment to the education and well-being of all young children. And I have two roles. One in the finance is making sure that, to do that, we're making sure that there's compliance, that there's equity, because equity is huge right now. That's the biggest thing. Just making sure that we're reaching all of that, and or that I'm reaching all of that, because that's where my passion is. Making sure that we're giving down to the students, because they're our future, and without the right education and without the right services, it's a disservice to us. So making sure that we're doing all of that, and I think that's the same thing for everybody. And then, kind of like what you said in the finance part of it, on the HR side of it, is making sure that we have the right and giving the right tools and the right needs to all of our staff to make sure that we are creating healthy students. Because one of the things that we've always wanted, and I'm sure, is a productive student, just like I want productive kids. And so that's my why, is making sure that we're continuing with that.
Okay, great. And what was your, I think you covered what's working, what's not working, and what do you personally want out of all these conversations? What would you personally want out of all these conversations to have on your positions, your role?
If I could get time, if I could bring additional time, that's the biggest area. I think overall, I think we all work really good together. I think it's good to always be able to, everybody be open and speak what they feel and have the conversations. We're not gonna always like what the other person says, because it's hard to agree with one person, much less multiple people. But having that common drive of where are we going and where are we trying to get, and I don't want to be that person, like you said, where somebody walks into the building and goes, oh, here comes Miss Hatchett. I don't want to be held by that accountability and by that role, but I also want to make sure that people understand this district, just like any other, because of the issues that the district is facing, will hit a point in time where, yeah, we have lots of money, you're not in that same situation anymore. So I just would like to see that we move in trying to get the right processes in place, because I think a good budget is the start of everything, and then good processes is number 2, and then everything else starts to fall in line as you get those things done. And so if we can accomplish those, I think that's going to make a huge change for the district overall.
Am I forgetting any other questions?
Oh, if I may, just a comment. I made a comment to Ms. Gonzalez after the last meeting about my perception of how she operates and looking from the perspective of efficiency and effectiveness, which I expressed to you that I truly appreciate, because, again, obviously what you're telling us and what you've done, at least up to this point in time, leads me to believe that. So, for that, thank you.
And I wrote myself a note saying what type of performance-based analysis do you have, but I can't remember.
She's gonna come back and talk about
Okay.
performance-based budgeting.
Yeah.
That's after the project,
Okay.
the program.
I write myself notes and then they kind of go off, so.
No, you're good. So that's fine. Thank you.
The next program is. Did you?
I don't think you want to.
I don't know. I'll text him and tell him that I'll have to do something else.
Oh. Sorry. Contact person?
Yeah, so I know which one we
All right, thank you, appreciate it. Thank you for letting me know. That's would have been. What time is it? Okay, now I got back on track now. Leandra, can we, I appreciate the information, we'll look through it, but let's get back on track. I want to ask you, why do you do why do you do your job?
What I do.
What's your
Motivator.
motivator?
Yes, and thank you for that question. And I think as an educator, that's very important for us to establish as a teacher to get the goals. What are you doing, or why do you, and how do you do things in your classroom? And I think that's my basic drive for the district is to bring what the educators, what our students, our classroom needs up to our level, at a certain level. And of course, if there are opportunity for me to bring it up to the state and giving more opportunity for our kids and even out of state, I will do it. And I will make sure that our kids will have the best of the best that there is that we can offer. I don't know if you guys know the musical play Dear Evan Hansen. So Dear Evan Hansen is a story about this kid with autism, and amidst his challenges, the theme song "You Will Be Found." So I would like to say that students will be found amidst their challenges. I mean, we are out here in the reservation, but there are students that are being challenged with current situation, whether it's family, whether it's friends, their peer pressures and so on. But that students will be found. I think in our capacity as a leader, district leader, we should be able to see and find those kids and make sure that they have a better future ahead of them. So that's my driving force as a person, as an educator, and as a teacher. My overarching why is actually to support ICO, CNI, student support, all of our academic and non-academic departments in our district. We have the Digital Equity in Education Act that we need to respond. There are projects that we've been ongoing in our midst of our discussion now that is happening. I need to make sure that the CIPA or the Children Internet Protection Act is being complied and being protected. Our PERPA, the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, and civil rights reporting are all in compliance and timely and accurately reported to our state and federal government. So those are some of my driving force why I am in this position, and of course building the capacity among our group, our newly born department. So our department is less than 2 years old, so we are still in the I would say like baby steps in creating the more smoother process in place, collaborating more with our district district departments, and of course going back to the why, or the core of why we're all here, is the classroom, and making sure that each of our students have the devices, connection of the internet, and of course the trainings and professional development that we can give for our principals, our teachers, who are the forefront of ensuring that instruction and services are being met into our classroom. So I hope that gives you give you a rundown of what my department and my personal and professional why.
How many people in your department?
We're 21, 14 are under IT, and then 7 in data and assessment, and including me.
Okay, and then how do you identify students that need those diverse services?
So I always say this, our department is, we always touch the students from the beginning. They wanted to enroll in our system. From the moment they register, our department is, technology and data department are always been there to support them. So from the beginning, like our homeless kids that can be identified in our student registration, we make sure that those information that needed to flag or to make like a notification to our ICO department or even at the school level, that making sure that those kids are given the services. If they don't have those documents or information, they can still go in, with the exception of our immunization. But we are, giving those support, giving them or directing them to proper authority, proper agency to provide those documentations. And at the same time, during and I have it on my slide, it is important for us to comply with the state reporting and federal reporting. So there are timelines that we need to kind of like, as I said, support the special ed department. The 4080, 120, and EOY reporting are important because the state will drive their estimates, their guesstimates of how many students will be allocated funds for the next school year. That is so important for us, being accurate and timely, because all of those systems that happening in the state level will not be as smooth as possible if our level in the district is not as timely and accurate as possible as well. Yes, I think those information are necessary for you guys, the board members, to know what are those snapshots that we call. But again, making sure that the initiatives that the state has given us, the district, about real-time data collection system, which is like an ongoing, it's a challenging, and I will mention that to my challenges. The challenges that the state of New Mexico, the NMPED, has bring us to where they try to get the real-time data on a day-to-day basis. However, the system is just not responding, or it's not just we're not there yet. I would say other states have done that on a really great process, but state of New Mexico is still in the stage of improving.
And how does your department determine educational and emotional gaps for our students? And how do you address those gaps?
Right. So if I mention particularly with gifted, so the gifted research department, with our students that are being identified and will be identified as gifted, the social emotional learning, where I'll give an example where last year we have a gifted student at Kirtland Central almost didn't make it to graduate, but we were able to support the kids that particular kid in a day-to-day basis. And that's kind of like closing the gap from the years of not having a gifted services per se within the school. Other than that, I think what we collaborate on, getting those information, making sure we need to report the kids who are under SAP and 504, and then also special ed student. So we know the numbers, but again, in terms of the special ed and SAP 504, we really don't go to the class and kind of give the service. But we need to let the departments know these are the students these are numbers per school, per grade level, and so on, so that they would know, where they go or what services they will be able to provide. Alternative assessment is huge to our department, collaborating with which students are who will take the dynamic learning maps. These are the assessment that needs to be administered to our students who have severe cognitive disability. And we make sure that those kids are equipped with technology, and of course, they are in a safe environment, that the test administrators are certified. We make sure that all the teachers that are administering the tests are trained and get those certification required by them. So I think that's I always say we're always at the back. We're on the back side of everything that's happening, but at some point we're able to support them by providing those data and information to different departments.
Okay.
And I think that kind of like a consequence of closing the gap for our students.
And then, how is your department working with the graduate profile to ensure that we're implementing it successfully?
Right, and I'll start with saying that we're always in the meeting from the moment we started the graduate profile back in 2021. I think that's the fall of 2021. Our department, particularly me as a data coordinator during that time, I was needed to provide those information. At the same time, I think there was a time that I have to step in and help building those questions for those survey. We make sure that those are in place in our Power School SIS. So those offerings, the courses that our graduate profile is showing, we need to make those offerings available for our students in terms of requesting courses, electives, based on, of course, their interests and their needs. We're trying to get our platform, and that's another area that we needed to make sure that it's in place for the next or upcoming year, where students will be able to see, what their plans are, and not just with the paper base. It will be in their system in Power School, where they can see, oh, this is how much progress I'm making in my credits, what are the grades, and also helping them kind of like organize and manage their plans, whether it's career or in college. So providing the system, a good system for them, is, I think, how we can support the graduate profile. Although my team, especially with the assessment, making sure that they have taken the required assessment by the state, although we all know that assessment is no longer required for graduation, but for the purpose of compliance, again, all our kids needs to take those assessment required by the federal government. So it's kind of like tying in a different area. One of my reports in IT, 3 of our students, 2 from Shiprock and 1 in Kirkland, are doing their internship under the IT department. So that's kind of like leading towards what they want to become when they graduate in high school, where they can have that, I would say benchmarks in order, if they want to go really with IT, or we can hire them eventually if they wanted to pursue IT or serve the district in the future. So I think those are some of the instances that I can share to you guys on how we support the graduate profile for our students.
So now, my last question before I send it over to my fellow board members. I haven't forgotten about you. What are some of the areas for improvement internally that recommendations for improvement in order for you to do your job best to support the students? What are some of the areas?
One of our biggest challenge this year is, and we put a process, but I know it's still in the process of improving it, is the technology request form, where departments or schools are able to purchase or acquire technology that never, or at some point didn't come through us, and then when they come to the district, it's kind of like some of those are not supported by our system, are not supported by the system that we have, and it's hard, and we'll make it work, whatever it may be, but there are just systems that we can't support if we don't know. And my guys, the IT department need to know what are those are, and so that we can better support the schools. We were able to get that process ongoing, but there's still packets of improvement that I would say, trying to make our schools and our departments aware that there's a process for technology requests, whether it's devices, software, subscriptions, all of those in between infrastructure and system-wise. I think that's the biggest. Second is the assessment in the assessment area, and I can speak for that. It's just assessment is not regarded as one of the best tool in instruction or in education. It's always regarded as, oh, that's another thing that our students will take, another task per se that our students. But as an educator, it's really imperative. It's really necessary for our students to get assessment, or to at some point needed to gauge what they know. But at the same time, we need awareness and understanding that in order for us to improve, those metrics and those measurements need to be established. And I hope and I feel that there's an improvement on our school leaders and district leaders on how assessment is perceived and accepted as a great tool for learning.
Okay. And then just out of curiosity, when we talk about SPED services, why is gifted not over there? Because SPED, they require an IEP, gifted, so why is it under data and IT, not where it's supposed to be with SPED?
That's a great question, Ms. Husky, and it's really kind of like Mr. Carson's leadership during that time, where we were able to, get it going with the push of House Memorial 33 in 2020, where our district are actually non-compliant with the gifted. And at that time, we just needed to get it going and make sure that we comply with the state requirements. Not all districts have gifted program under SSO or special education. Some of them are under CNI, and some of them have their own department. And I think in the past couple of years, and probably more than 10 years ago, it is a single department that's being run by a coordinator at that time. I think that's a really great question, and it's up to really how we can see, but I think that's something that's working for us, especially with collaboration with assessment, because we need to, number one requirement of BED is to get that screener for our third grade, and the screener, assessing those kids, collaborating within our department with assessment and gifted, we were able, and it's on my report that we were able to screen 250 plus students, third grade students this year, and 50 of those will be moving on to the next one. At the same time, the IEPs, I can't say enough how important the IEP is, because it's a legal document, but there's a big difference between the IEP for special ed and of course the GIEP. There are requirements from IDA that we really don't need to, like the re-evaluation. Our kids, and quote unquote, gifted students are always gifted. So when they get identified, it's up to us to continue develop their gifts and talents. At the same time, we don't really need to retest them on the area of their giftedness, and that's a little different from us. So that kind of like making a unique process in a GIEP, and we're actually looking to get another system in place where it is in PowerSchool or connected with PowerSchool, which is our student information system, to leverage the synchronization of our GIEP in the system. And so that's something that is a little different with gifted and special education.
Because I think there, just in my experience, having two sons that were in the gifted program, and knowing where we've looked at our audits with missing IEPs and so forth, I think that would be something that we really would have to re-examine. we all, consistency across the board. And you have two systems. You're doing it your way, she's doing it her way. We're in compliance, but there's not consistency. I don't know about the collaboration. I know that's a huge thing that we continue to talk about.
Right.
And that would be something that my concern would be, again, not having students fall through the cracks based on where they're being identified. And that would be a concern that I would have, and we would have to, my thought is to revisit that.
And the systems as far, I think that, because the systems are different. So the way we identify and the way special ed's identified and the reevaluation, the evaluation process is totally different. So that's why I think whoever did that, we just kind of, it was never really under our department. It was always kind of, like he said, out by itself or under C&I. And so, but it's really different. It's on the spectrum. So it's on one side where they now don't even have to really have an evaluation. It's not IQ based, and I think that's where it went. So once it went from you don't have to have the IQ anymore to qualify, then it kind of left to go into that different alternative identification process. So, but we'll do whatever. But I just wanted to clarify that the systems are so different, and that's why they were pulled apart.
Well, I understand they are different, but there's some inconsistencies in that sense. And I so appreciate, because I know when I came back into the district, I know that we didn't have a gifted program, and you are teaching 6 students calculus, right? And I'm so appreciative of that. But you're data and IT, and so somewhere you picked up a thing and you moved it over here, and you're in data and IT, and how does that it's that's where you're looking. It's just like
Right.
we're picking up different things, like, oh, I want that one, I want the red cube, and I'm gonna have that one, and you're doing a great job at it, but we really have to look at that. We have to look at it in terms of consistency and the requirements, the federal requirements across the board.
Right,
And
I'm sharing we presented to the board a couple of months ago about the process that is it's aligned with the New Mexico PED requirement on gifted identification, and we have developed that. And thank you for recognizing that we're doing a great job. But I'd like to add on when Ms. Sutherland mentioned about the other side of the spectrum. We're actually kind of like we're building assets. It's an asset-based framework where we look at the kids, although some of the kids, as I mentioned before, are masking their gifts and talents because of the current situation they have, or family situation, school situation. But we're trying to mitigate and respond to that. And of course, as I mentioned, if we have those services get going and develop and successful, I think we can pull kids back to our district. And that's where I wanted to kind of like get going. And if that's the direction of the district, I'm more than happy to collaborate. And we're doing that after we collaborated with our schools, what we call roadshow, kind of like, and gifted, again, is not as much as popular art it should be. So we're doing a roadshow where we're trying to explain to the principals and the school leadership, of course the teachers, how it entails or how it looks like in classroom. So right after we were doing that, we all already collaborated with our SSO, our CNI, and we're scheduled to have next week with ICO. So I think that's kind of like tight then, and of course looking at whatever directions we're going, once this process, and Carol mentioned, once the process is up, whoever's leading it will be successful. And I'm glad that I started it, and I'm going to get it going. it's really up to you and of course the leadership of Mr. Carson where it should go. And I'm totally will be supportive of whatever that may look like.
Just something, just because I'm passionate about it too, is that like, I've always said this from the get-go, is like, you shouldn't have to qualify to get enrichment. You shouldn't have to have a label to get enrichment or to get at-risk support. And so I think that we've come a long way in the district to do that, like with, when they brought in the new standards, I was one that really liked it because it opened up for not just the special ed kids with universal design, but our enrichment kids. Because when I came, it was like, oh, they don't have an IEP, so they can't go to advanced math, or they can't. And I remember talking when Leandra first became the STARS person, I was like, why is that? Like, we have kids that are scoring high that may not qualify through the IQ for a high level math class. Why are we doing that? So that's where we kind of started looking at it, and then Bellamy got involved, and then had it for a little bit. But anyway, I just wanted to say that I think we've come a long way seeing that these kids that or robotics. I remember I was just kind of like puzzled why kids couldn't go to those extracurriculars just because they don't have an IEP, when they should be able to go because they just really gifted in hands-on stuff and the mechanics of it all. So anyway, I just wanted to say that I think we've come away from opening that avenue for a lot of kids, and then now with the new assessment, I think it'll be really good. So, thank
Any
you.
board members? Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I have. So with your, I believe it was the last meeting or so, we were talking about how the concern that we're not leaving kids, our students out over in Newcomb and Oshchiki area. And I think it was mentioned before, this was years back, that there was a particular student that could have gone, to Stanford, and so I'm hoping that's not the case, and then also with the new requirements, the new graduating requirements, one person that I was listening to at ASBO talked about, asked the question, because no algebra is required. So when that student is testing for our, going through SAT testing, that what do they do then if they, because algebra is still in that, and they really had no answers to it. And so as a district, how, I don't know if that lays in your area, and but overall, how are we going to deal with that?
Yes. So I think there's kind of like a confusion on the Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. It's actually Algebra 1, Algebra 2 that is not required for graduation, Ms. Aspas. And you're right, those concepts, and I've taught Algebra 2 for many, many years. And and Steve and Peter always, we talked about, the lessons and the skills that our students need to have Algebra 2. And I'm advocating for Algebra 2 to remain in the requirements, however, it didn't go through. But there's a stipulation in the requirements where Algebra 2 is still an opportunity for our kids to be offered in our school. And that's our directions. It will be still offered it will never be gone in our system or not being offered to our students, because we have kids, a great amount of kids that could go to college and be, of course, what you said about taking the college board ASAP. They need those skills, and I can't speak enough how those skills will be required for them to pass or to get a great scores in SAT, especially now colleges and universities are going back to college entrance examinations as one of those requirements, or getting into some scholarships and obtaining those scholarships. So I think we need, as a district, we need to make sure that those offerings are still offered in our high schools, regardless of, but I would say, of course, based on their graduate profile, based on their academic needs and where they're heading to, that's where the driving force of the offerings for our students. But again, as a math teacher at the high school, I'm sad that that's not what the statutory requirements, but I'm happy that our district is still offering those Algebra 2 and of course pre-calculus classes for our students. As a matter of fact, we're looking at AP pre-calculus so that we will be able to get our students get on track on the, if they're taking AP calculus in the next level or calculus. So those offerings are really important. And I agree with you, Ms. Aspat, that those are things that we really need to look at, and that lands on our department where our power school will need to have that offering open to our students for our high schools.
And with that, I hope it's communicated with the parents, because had that lady not stand up and ask, I wouldn't have known. And it, you could tell from the ones that were sitting there that they were just as surprised, and nodding their heads too in agreement that, okay, I guess, that's something that I didn't consider, and but it needs to be communicated with parents too.
Right. And if I may add, President and Vice President, so in the gifted, we put it under the research program. In the research program, there are like visions that I would like to see in the future, where, as I said before, looking at our data, empirical data, and make use of those data to drive instructions, to drive decisions for the district. But again, we're not there yet. So the gifted is under the research, where all the research best practices, or I would say, what are the things that are neighboring, like Arizona, Colorado, and Utah, what are they doing in their high achieving kids? And we're looking at, opportunities for them, like ASU Prep, their global academy for students. We're exploring those, and those are research based, and of course things that are, I would say, successful in the area where mostly are Native Americans, making sure that those information are also available for us under research.
I got a question. Can you clarify that point? Are you talking about that we have a position, or we're looking at a research position?
No. So basically now we have a coach. She's actually, Miss Kate. She's actually working as a liaison for us to get it going, the curriculum for our gifted education teachers to support her. It's not yet a position for us, but we're looking at. I'm actually requesting for a position for that. We had one before. It's a coordinator. It's an instructional coach position, but as I said, 10 years ago, it was a coordinator's position. So I'm not actually looking for a coordinator position, but more on the instructional, so that they can, or she or he can support instruction within the classroom.
So in respects to that, the coordinators that you have, do they work directly with the high schools and the counselors to do some of that already? Because isn't that something of a guidance for the counselors to be able to do to direct those students, especially those that are taking AP classes in regards to calculus? That eliminates any other math classes that one would have to take once they step into college, especially like at San Juan. So if the counselors are working with the colleges, and the counselors are working with the students, and your coordinators are working with all those that I just mentioned, well then is that not preclude any research or any research position that needs to happen, because it should happen automatically?
Right, and that's actually tier one of the services. And I would say this because our counselors at the high school, especially with our large high school, based on the National Guidance Counseling Organization, their requirement is 1:250 students. The ratio is 1:250. And I don't want to say that they're not doing their job, but I think there are more services that are, kind of like supporting alongside with our college and career readiness coordinator. Those two actually collaborate really, really great with what you just said, getting those opportunities to go to college or university, or even opening up career events at the high school. But this position will not really kind of like dictate what the students or guide them. It's more on in the level of the district where we will get opportunity, open the horizon for them, like creating the pathway or creating a road for them. Like as I mentioned, the ASU prep. Nobody knows about ASU prep before. So that kind of like, again, the collaboration between as a district and of course streaming to the schools. And I can't really say that they're not doing their job again. It's more on the collaboration side within the school counseling office. And they are tremendously, I know from SHPRA, the two guidance counselors over there are working there. They're working so hard to get that, of course, the graduation requirements, and of course at the same time the opportunities, the college career opportunities for them.
Trying to formulate the next question. That sounding too harsh in respects to not agreeing with you with the creation of another position. But again, and I meant to say guidance counselors, because not just counselors. I don't want people to misunderstand what I'm saying, but our guidance counselors, when it comes to what their roles and responsibility are to the students, and again, working directly with the students and the families, and the graduate profile, creating another level, the admin, to do what, in my humble opinion, I might be wrong, should be occurring anyway. And just like you said, the exposure of some of these opportunities that they're not being exposed to at the guidance counselor levels. Maybe just the expansion of their knowledge and their understanding of what is available may suffice. Because more opportunities that they have to present, the more opportunities our students have. And that comes through, again, the collaboration with our local schools and the schools in the regions and the different states. I know a lot of people look at ASU, NAU, CU, but certainly to diversify those opportunities. We have all these banners hanging up as an example with Chippewa High School, but to what extent do we really go to and collaborate with these organizations to expand those horizons for these students? To my point of suggesting to the young man that was in front of us at the board meeting the other night, at a private school in Boston, It's one of the finest schools in the country. It's a private school. But again, how would he not know about it if I didn't say anything? With that understanding, and that's what I mean. If our people are doing their jobs and responsibility, they see that talent and that ability, there shouldn't be a need to create a whole other position to do that.
And actually, Carol and I had the conversation on how to respond to that, and my comment was not until we have our job description and for salary all analyzed all together and making sure that one job is doing this job, we won't need to create those positions. And I don't disagree with what you just said, Mr. Montoya. But as I said, or as we discussed, we're on that pathway, I think. But to respond to what the current situation or current needs for the schools, and I'm not just talking about the high school, more so with the middle school and elementary, they also needed guidance on how to implement the curriculum for gifted, because this is new for them. The teachers are new to the gifted education programming, and it's been a while since they hear about it. So we need to get that going in order for us to successfully have an outcome that is favorable for our kids, for our students, and our community at large. And I mean, yes, I agree that we shouldn't be creating FTEs or positions here and there, but not until we have that analysis. And I give an example, like I've read something about in San Juan College where they did their descriptions and their analysis of things that can impact when they create a position, and I will be honestly say we're not yet there. If we create a position, what is the impact 5 years, 10 years, or so? So, and that to me, like as a math teacher and as a statistician, I would love to bring that in the future for my research department to get that analysis comprehensive, and not just with the educational side, but also with the operation side. And that's something that we can provide if we were given the tools, given the the opportunity to expand that vision for the district.
Yeah, and the comment really is in respects to Ms. Gonzalez about what I said in regards to efficiency and effectiveness, and certainly staying away from redundancies.
Right.
Because we don't need that redundancy, and I appreciate a point of expanding the diversity of your employees and cross-training and them understanding those roles, because there are many, many times, as you all know, that there has to be an individual that could step in temporarily to take care of some of these duties if there's a long-term absence from anybody within their department. Likewise, to the point of the coordinators understanding how to do some of that research along with the guidance counselors to find those opportunities. And again, a matter of just staying away from redundancies for creating a position.
And not only just redundancies, identifying first. We don't know if you don't know. Like for me being new, I could have somebody that's way overworked and somebody not overworked. I don't know that yet. We haven't looked at systems currently, and that's what needs to happen.
Well, yeah, and that kind of goes to some of the conversations we've had months ago about the roles and responsibilities of even the educators in and of themselves, and how people go off to certain places, bring back training, and we got this grand idea, or the PED mentioned something, and well, we're going to do this, and they just start stacking like a stack of paper plates from Sam's Club with 150 different things for our educators to do. Well, we're not pulling anything out that is a redundancy or inefficient, ineffective for them, to minimize that. Because that's really where that load is, and that would be applied to anybody in anywhere in any position throughout the district. Efficiency and effectiveness.
I agree. I think we need to look at our positions. You said it, to analyze all our positions and figure out where there's already people there that just need the extra training. And maybe that's where, with the analyzing the positions, the data, that you can train and cross-train because we don't need to just keep adding positions. I feel the same way, because then it comes to Christina saying, that's not my job, I only do gifted, it's not my job. Or other people having that same mentality, where you're actually creating those little niches, those little kind of, like, I only do this area.
Many
It's
mean,
the silos,
mean girls.
mean girls, silos, and we don't need that. We're trying to be inclusive, we want our kids, even in gifted programs, all the kids need to be able to have that socialization with everybody. And when you create these programs just for that, then it creates, it has its problems too. And so I want to be inclusive, and I'm really appreciative that you're pulling out, identifying students that normally probably wouldn't be identified. But I think overall, the training of this, I think it has to be across the board. Because what we don't know, we don't know. And we only know is if we receive training. All teachers, everybody, guidance counselors get taught that we're not just focusing on one spectrum, but the other spectrum too. So, go ahead.
I'm glad you said that, because that goes all the way back into that classroom.
Mhm.
And using as an example, let's just say, there was one time where I had heard an educator say, there was a child in the classroom who was head and shoulders above his other kids. Parent says, well, push him. That's not my job. Because the parent wanted the teacher to start teaching 4th grade, okay, in a 3rd grade class. Well, that's not my job, I'm a 3rd grade teacher. See, and shame on that individual, because your job is to educate that child and see. So when you start progressing to junior high and you see these talents and this ability that this child has, and they can and they're capable of, and you're not pushing them, and they know what they want to do, because some of these kids do. Okay, and so then that's when you start to create that career path for that individual, or certainly the opportunities for them to be successful, all of them. There was a saying in the movie one time that individual said, well, I'm a special education teacher, the principal said, all education is special. To the point that so are all the kids, and they are all capable. And we, as our job, our responsibility as educators, is to find that and bring it out of them and help them grow and become successful. And if we're not doing that, we're not doing our jobs. So the point of being able to see these kids in 9th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, okay, and that natural inclination of being able to say, man, this child is just a mathematician, unbelievable, that I've never seen, okay? So do we just keep them at that grade level, or do we find them a place where they can go, MIT or anywhere else? See, it should be intuitive. It shouldn't take a researcher to say, let me see if I can find something. It should be automatic, in my humble opinion. But that happens, and it shouldn't take a special position to be able to do that. It's working in concert with the people around you to be able to find that path for that individual, for that child to be successful.
Right, and if I can add, Mr. Montoya, to it, as I said earlier, I don't want to say in a negative way, it's a cultural shift on how things are being addressed or are being perceived. Like, those financial secretaries that you mentioned earlier, that's not my job, or why my job is being like that. The same case with our teachers. And of course, there's a room for improvement for our teachers on how they see in a general way, because always there's a tier 1 or layer 1 instruction where all the kids' needs should be met, and they should have implemented differentiated instruction. And of course, the assumption is that they understand and they know their kids well enough where they can differentiate the instruction, giving them the what they need. Just like you mentioned, if they are really genius in math, you don't hold them back. You make them forward or move them forward. And that's, I think some of our teachers kind of like, challenge us as well. And I don't want to single out anybody, but there are teachers that are in that still mindset, and we need to address that as a district, not just one particular gifted education program. One thing that we've been doing, or we're trying to do, is to collaborate with the regular ed teachers, the gifted teachers that we have in the school. They are already in the schools, is to collaborate and see, observe, and what are the things that that particular kid, whether or not, especially with the elementary, because we don't have gifted and talented students right now, is to identify and put them in our talent pool, so that we can have that going to the school, and of course getting the regular ed teachers or regular classroom teacher to help build the culture within their classroom, where they implement differentiated instruction, giving the kids needs based on what they're looking for, or what they are really interested in doing. So
I'm gonna add one more thing in reference to what you're saying. When we talk about today in education, the growth mindset, right? We've all heard that term, but that's really more applicable to adults, mature individuals, to continue to develop the brain, because we know it happens just like any other muscle, it deteriorates over time. It's not really a concept in respect to a child, but if that adult understands that growth mindset, okay, and sees it again intuitively, that I have a child here that is exceptional, then with the understanding of the growth mindset for themselves, okay, takes that and applies that to the child to say, I can help this child grow even more. So that's how that growth mindset is applicable. And I don't think, dare I say, again, in my opinion, we do that enough.
Because we as adults are the ones that are creating those barriers for the students.
Absolutely.
Students are so resilient that if you give them just a little bit of the tools, they will thrive. They will find a way to get from A to B, but it's us. And I think that would be so instrumental in your department, to be able, with the data and then analysis, to be able to provide the training to the teachers, to the regular general, what did you say? The regular teachers, to be able to foster those changes in the classroom.
right, and we are planning, and I share this to the cabinet, we're planning to create a one page, say for example, our fifth grade teachers, what are they doing best? Like, why are the kids, say for example in EBB, they have more kids that are proficient than the other school. What are they doing? So it's not really like a research that's going to the state or over the nation, but a research within our district, and see what are the great things that's happening in one particular school, or could that be something that other school can duplicate, or to basically mimic, because that's something that's working with other schools. Why not with other schools, especially getting that, as I said, analyze those particular grade levels or grade bands more so. But we're planning to do that in our own realm of research. But I'd really love to highlight our teachers and our what are the great things that happen. Basically,
It's funny you said that, because down in Albuquerque, I made that comment to an individual, one of the vendors. I said that we have 89 laboratories of intervention. And I heard the term laboratories. We do? 89 school districts. And I said, that's what they are. And to me, the point is that there are successful districts, there are successful schools in those districts, there are successful classrooms in those schools, to your point. Go to them, see what they're doing, see how they're doing it. And you take that and you spread it across the rest of the school, then maybe the rest of the district. I don't like the term best practices, because best doesn't always work well here as it does in Farmington or Aztec or Bloomfield. efficiency and effectiveness, resourcefulness, discard the bad and keep the good. It's a pretty simple principle concept.
So one of the, I think, I'm kind of like going over my time, but I think institutionalizing what our teachers are doing, and of course with your, what you just say, making that efficiency of teaching and you know, getting the outcome that we wanted to have for our kids, and make it as a highlight for the district would eventually the mindset will be growing, or you know, applying those growth mindset theories that we can have for our students. And of course, it will take time. And Carol said, I'm referencing Carol many times, but it won't happen over time. It won't happen in 1 year or 2 years. I think there has to be continuity of course, leadership, the programs, and of course, and I shared this to the cabinet a few weeks ago. The evaluation piece of the things that we're doing is so important, because we have the data, we have all the results, but what do we do? Do we continue it? Do we stop it? Or we have to modify it or tweak it in the same time? So those kind of systems that we haven't gone far, but the vision that we have for those process in place will eventually be our overarching goal, and of course in the near future to get that going for CCSD. And I have written something here in my notes that I kind of like my mantra. CCSD is a premier school district that leverages language, culture, and unique identity to foster readiness with the 21st century needs and aspirations of our students. So hopefully that's something that we can get on and move forward all together in CCSD.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes.
Comments? Okay.
So, I've shared this before, when we talk about counselors, and this is this firsthand that you know, you think a counselor is there to help all the students, but I think back in my time when I was a student, high school, and then even what I saw when my daughter was in high school, that they decided which ones were worthy of who was college bound or not. And that's through my eyes as a student, and then also what I saw as a parent, you know, through my daughter, and a lot of the credit recovery, all those things that are in their hands to help. They don't really even know the content, and that's what makes me upset. And because again, what I went through with my daughter, and she gave up her summer vacations, and yet those. She didn't need to. She went ahead and did those summers so that she didn't have to be lack of credits, you know, her senior year. And here, because of the school at that time, they lost the paperwork. And so she goes into her senior year, and then she's lacking 3 credits. And that really made me upset because of really what she gave up. And she wanted to go to basketball camp. She wanted to do other things. But, you know, at that time, the counselor kind of laughed at it and thought it was funny. And then pulled papers from my hand saying, if you're gonna go to the board, then, you know, and threatened me as a parent and saying, you know, and that just even more made me angry. And, but had I not intervened, she wouldn't have graduated on time. And then I wonder, you know, how many students, that's why I'm so, December, when that comes around, I want to hear, I want to know that the parents are informed, and then the counselors. You know, we have the principals here, but I think we need to start bringing the counselors too, and see and hear from them, because it's I hope it's still not like that, you know, that they're the ones deciding, and that, you know, that they are giving everyone a chance, because it seems like there is that student that may look like a at-risk student as a troublemaker or whatever, but in the end or eventually they're the ones that are gifted, they're the ones that are bored. And so that's why I say, and those counselors are there every day, you know, to know and to they're better to assess that student. So, thank you.
Yeah, I think I'm saying so much, but with response to what you said, Ms. Aspas, I think as a teacher, I am one of the most will advocate for our students. And when I was a teacher at Shiprock High School, and this is my experience, so we have an advisory class, and switches, we were teacher at Shiprock High School. So we have an advisory class where we make sure that, you know, we had those, what we call things that we need to do, like checklists, and that really helps my students at that time, especially the juniors where they are standing at. Because we dedicate our time for them to really look at, because aside from the teacher advocating for them, they need to advocate for themselves as well. And that's what we wanted to empower our students, because ultimately the teachers, the parents, and the community can advocate for them, but we wanted them to say, oh, this is where I want to go, this is my future, this is my plan. So we're giving them the opportunity at the same time, making them feel that, you know, we're spending time for them. And I think it's an ongoing process for our high schools to do. And I think one of the responses to, again, to Mr. Montoya's point, creating that CCR, College and Career Readiness Coordinator at each of the high school, so that, as you mentioned, nothing or nobody is falling through the cracks, and at least there's some check and balance within this high school, so that we won't lose any kids not graduating or potentially not graduating for that school year. And I think there's really great things that are happening, but again, those things that shouldn't be happening, because our kids deserve equal, fair and equitable resources for their education.
Do we still have Power School?
Yes. So our student information system is Power School. Yes.
What about Edgenuity?
We don't have Edgenuity anymore. and now it's VLN. It's under the CNI department. This VLN is the one that we purchased 2 years ago, or more than a year now.
2 years ago.
So basically, there's a teacher. It's an online platform, but there's a teacher that, aside from the actual in-person teacher that's monitoring the students, there's a teacher that kind of like one-on-one group session with that particular class, and it's a certified. Most of, I think all of those teachers are certified through the state of New Mexico.
Any other questions or comments?
One,
Yes.
and not challenging, but certainly just to throw it out there, not just for you, Mr. Ventura, but the superintendent. On some of these things, and I agree, take time. Some of them are just an attitude adjustment. And changing attitude, we're human beings, and behavior. And I've said this before about how the board creates that environment. And, so I think there's some things that can change rather quickly, and that's an individual's attitude and how they want to proceed, and how they want to do their job. So, but yes, there are those processes that take time. But certainly, if we create that environment for that change to occur, then it'll happen more quickly. Don't expect it overnight, but it can happen more quickly. To your point, Mrs. Gonzalez, about looking at those things, the efficiencies and effectiveness, and letting them know that this is what we do, this is how we do it, this is why we do it. So this is what we do. So, appreciate it.
Board Member Wells?
I don't have any comments or questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I had another question.
I'll give my time.
Go
Yield your time to Ms. Aspas.
I yield my time.
Okay, it's really not a question, it's a comment. It's funny how, as we, the recent past years, how career readiness has been a real big, focus for legislatures. And then all of a sudden to lower the standards and say no more Algebra 2 without really thinking, that when they take their college SATs, that's involved in there. And I don't know, it's just crazy. And I'm really glad that somebody stood up and spoke and asked, and because there was no answer back from that person, from PED. Thank you.
They say it's research.
Yeah, and I find that really interesting too, but I really do appreciate all the work that you've done starting the SPED program, the gifted program again. You and I have had conversations about it. I'm really appreciative of it, but I also, in line with what Ms. Aspas had stated, when I was going through high school, the same thing, guidance counselor, bring in, everybody has to do ASVAB, so that, nobody was going to go to college. That was the thought, to everybody go to the military or something else. So I think just a retraining of people is necessary. I think the mindset, and especially because of the area that we live in, very rural. The SES is not very high. I think 18,000 to 21,000 is the normal social economic area in our area. So in light of those things, the challenge would be for your department, I would say, to really educate our guidance counselors, our teachers, everybody in regards to into the gifted program, and help give them the tools to be able to identify students, and also to help them start looking at resources. Because we have some great, amazing, talented students, and they're just not being identified, probably mislabeled.
I promise this is my last comment. But just what was said to me, and not to intentionally be a provocateur, but to be one. We talk about the resources, the ability, and again, I ask people, just especially the general public, and Ms. Asmussen pointed and alluded to this before, but just imagine, had we been getting 100% of our impact aid money since 1975, the opportunities to the point of finding these kids, understanding these kids, utilizing those funding in that manner specifically for these kids, how many more lives could have been changed effectually and enhanced because of that? And I go back, 90% of that money was taken by the state. And then they were kind and adjusted to 75. Finally, 45, 44 years later, they gave us 100% back. But, and I keep saying this, we're playing catch up.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay. All right, yes.
Last thing is, President, and I'd like to, again, just share two things. I think it is important for us and to recognize the importance of our district strategic plan where we're heading towards. And I think that's the big umbrella where I did share many times that that's our kind of like our 30,000 foot view of what our district or how our district will be attaining those goals, our objectives, and so on. So where it encompasses, of course, our data plan, our assessment plan, our technology plan, our mentorship plan, our professional development plan, our curriculum plan, our outreach plan, all those really kind of like enveloping our goals and aspirations for the district. And second, I really wanted to thank you all for recognizing the gifted program, because we can leverage the gifted program in order for us to get where our students should be and could be. I think that's an asset base that we should be able to look at for our kids, even though kids that are failing. And this is my last sharing. We'll be having an interview with a student. He's a sophomore. He's failing his classes. But when we interviewed him, he wants to study quantum physics.
Wow.
And that's so amazing. But again, there are challenges that this kid had to endure over the years that he's been in middle school and now in high school. And we need to act fast. We need to do something. And that's my role and our role as a district.
To my point earlier,
Thank
find
you.
those things and working with them.
Thank you.
And to add, we have a student that we're actually gonna test dual, because again, low performing, a lot of emotional, but when you see what they can do just sitting there and taking one test, and the principals luckily were able to identify that and said, we want to get this done too. And so we're like, this is exactly the kind of kid you're looking at.
Thank you for mentioning that. And I did part of the gift that is the 2 E's, the twice exceptionality, that we wanted to really collaborate with SSO at the same time with our EL students, because EL students shouldn't be just placed in one thing and then that's all that they can do. There are things that they can do more than they can do in and outside of classroom, and that's where our mandate basically to do for our kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, no more questions.
No
Okay.
more.
All right.
Can I
Yes.
retract some of that? We talk about here and have done several times about the lack of funds that we had, and with Mr. Montoya's comment here, we playing catch-up. I don't think it's fair that we look at it playing catch-up, because we can't go back and bring those students who have already gone through up. We need to take the information, the experience, and learn from it, and see that it doesn't happen again. And see that the resources that he talks about, we now have 100% of impact aid. Where can we apply that so that, to Ms. Aspas's point, no one going forward, because we can't go backward, no one going forward experiences the same thing that she did and the experience she had with her daughter. That to me is where I think we need to focus. We have ability, we have recognizing the problem, and now we have resources. I think our responsibility should be to see where those resources are used. As we've talked about, not to create other programs or other departments, siloing those departments, but seeing that everybody is working together to not repeat, but to take the students forward without handicapping them as has been done before. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The next, grants. Thank you.
Are we still morning?
Yes.
10 more minutes, good morning. Getting close to you.
Yeah.
Feels like forever, coming off of Easter break. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share federal programs under CNI. So where Mr. Dustwood had the opportunity to share an overview at part 1 of our board retreat of CNI. And I'm coming in at the end, wrapping up the federal programs. So just to get started, in business terms, the term North Star is your mission. Where are you headed? So on the cover page, CNI's North Star, CCSD, is preparing students who are culturally aware, community-driven, physically and emotionally healthy, possess life skills, and are ready for college and careers in the 21st century. It's on the slide here, but not on your printout. So that's our focus. Within our team, we meet as instructional coordinators, our support staff, myself, federal programs with my assistant, Erica Harvey-Manali, who is definitely my right hand. It's just the two of us. So keeping up with our grants has us moving. We hustle. The second page, moving into the spreadsheet here, is the grants that I oversee. So I have potentially my finger in the pot of some grants as advisory, as support, but under CNI, these are the grants that our department oversees. Title I is our largest, and this sheet here is our successes. So I set up our presentation today on successes, goals, and needs. I could have gone on for many, many pages of successes. Title I is an amazing pot of federal funds that supports our students to reach the opportunities that I feel in my why is why I come here. That every student should have the opportunity to be successful in any possible way. And so my personal mantra is then to hustle. And how can I get that for those kiddos? I'm a mom, I'm Indigenous, I'm from New Mexico, I'm from San Juan County. And not only do I personally want to see our kiddos succeed at Central Consolidated, but within the county, in the state, in the nation, in the world. The old rancher in me, the growing up as a rancher and a cowgirl, you meet that at all costs, however that has to be. When you're trying to spring season and you have your calves calving, your heifers calving, that's life. And if your calf doesn't have an opportunity to be successful as a rancher, you're not successful. So you do everything you can. And that's my DNA. That's how I come here. That's my why, is that every student should be afforded that opportunity to succeed. Title I is our largest grant in our department. It is a funding matrix that the PED gives to us based on our mentorship, our membership and our poverty index. And that can be very gray in knowing how that works each year as it comes around. So we rely very heavily on the 120-day count, having our students be counted. We work real closely with our DART team, Mr. Badbaden, where we have with our count dates, our principals, getting our kiddos to come so that we know we can have them accounted for when we do receive these funds. Some of our successes under the Title I column, we've worked really hard this year to align our plans, our 90-day plans, our DASH plans, our staff professional development plans to every, those are many times returned. We want to know that there is a plan for the funds that are being spent, and they're not being spent just because they have funds available. So that's a huge success. We've gone out to schools, Erica and I, to work with principals, work with teachers, also to work with our financial secretaries who are supporting the schools into what those plans look like and how to access those plans from their principal, the 90-day DASH plans. Targeted support with our priority schools. Our team works very closely with the targeted schools to support them above and beyond. How to get them off of priority status, utilizing and leveraging the funds that they have available within those resources to the student. We brought in Solution Tree PLC so that we could start the communication efforts, collaborating amongst the teachers at the school level. Title I and Title II funds supported that. And as you heard Mr. Guestwood share, you've heard Mr. Venturina and all of our cabinet members share PLCs. So that stemmed out of coming with Title I and Title II funds to support how to effectively look at data, how to effectively collaborate and communicate the needs. With Priority Schools Bureau, we've also had additional supports and PD that have been offered for how to dig down root cause analysis, how to look at strategically, how are we maneuvering into aligning to what our data is telling us. And as Mr. Montoya also shared, growth mindset into change, that sometimes what we've done for 5, 10, 15 years isn't working. And we need to look at something different or other schools that are doing different things that we might be able to develop within our own areas. Interventionists, and that has been amazing. Our reading interventionists at the elementary levels have been targeting goals, coming in monthly, talking amongst each other, with each other. How can we support our kiddos? What are you doing that's working at your school that I could possibly implement over at my school? And how are we reaching into the Layer 2 students, Layer 3 students for that targeted intervention and support in ELA and reading? The district agricultural plan went out last year. That was an 18-month project that we've been working on And the 3 high schools have come together to develop an agricultural plan that unifies the focus that our community had requested within agriculture in surveys that had gone out over the past 3 to 5 years of wanting to see a stronger agricultural program, tying it to career readiness, CTE programs, FFA, agriculture, and our kiddos are reaching high levels of national competitions through the support of our federal programs. We had Dr. Seuss Week just recently, and that was an all-district effort, awareness in reading and supporting reading in our school levels, taking from a book. With our technology now, our kiddos are on our iPads and social media reading, but how wonderful to have a book and read a book. Coordinators working in schools, our Title I program supports the funding of the salaries for our coordinators that can then move in and work in layer 1 and layer 2 as well. Instructional focuses, helping principals to align their 90-day plans to what the data is that they see, and then our teachers having a strong voice in that plan as well. Title II is focused on building capacity and professional development with teachers and administrators. We focused this year aligning it to school improvement and student achievement. The 90-day plan focused with root cause analysis. So these are just some of the successes that we're sharing out. We were able to support Swivels. It's a technology device, iPad that follows a marker on a teacher. They wear a lanyard marker. They can be anywhere in the room, and the iPad will follow them and record from their marker their instruction. Teachers can then look at themselves and analyze how their instructional practices went, share out with their administrator, share out with their coordinators, their coaches, how they can receive additional supports. So we have 3 of those in every school that teachers can check out. Teacher Appreciation Week is coming up, so we're excited to continue celebrating our teachers through our Title II funds. And we this year began partnership with San Juan College Teacher Mentorship Program. They have some additional supports coming in that we're starting and looking into, but overall, the Title II grant is for teacher capacity and professional development. So that's the funds there. The next one over, Title IV, is focused on what they call 3 buckets. And it can be a little confusing to know what the buckets are, but overall, our focus funds align to plans and needs assessments, music and art, district showcases, band equipment. Judy Nelson, Kirtland Middle School both developed their band programs off of Title IV. Performance centers, our performance centers, the PAC and the BIPAC, receive funds from there, and to then support what's happening at the schools when they come up for student showcases at the PAC centers. We have hydroponics that not only support STEM, but also supporting Title I, the math and the LA component, project-based learning, and that went out to Newcomb High School and Newcomb Middle School. The funds are plan-based and needs assessment-based, and so not all schools necessarily request the same thing across the board. We focus the Title IV funds into what the needs are of that school and what the school feels will enhance their enrichment programs. And so out in the Newcomb area, their ag programs were growing and they requested the hydroponic systems. Woodshop advancements, that came from TBA. They requested advancements there. And one of the components I hadn't heard yet is Intel. And we do have a lot of our teachers who have some experience either working for Intel in the past or relatives there. And so Mr. Thomas in TBA Woodshop had requested, he had experience there and had requested advancements within his woodshop focusing towards the Intel. This was already over a year ago, so that component took longer than a year to get going for him. Educator Rising is a program that supports building teachers. And there is a competitive piece of that where the high school students that are learning about the craft of being a teacher can elect to be part of the Educators Rising program. and they then can compete at the national level. And so we support that as well. They come to us each year from Newcomb High School requesting for supportive funds for their teachers to compete at Newcomb High, at the Educator Rising. As I mentioned, FFA and CTE Nationals, our FFA stock show, national stock shows, and they've come out in the top 3. They're doing amazing.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are these all the grants that we have in the district?
These are
They-
just
they-
the ones I
okay.
oversee. And then in letter C of today's agenda is the additional grants.
Okay. And then right here you have Makerspace Technology District-wide. Are there other grants or things that support technology that data and IT also support?
Within the grants that I oversee, Title IV would be the only component specifically to purchasing something of that nature. Title I focuses on ELA and math.
Okay.
So if technology is rolled into the Common Core components of ELA and math, then yes, Title I supports that as well.
And you don't oversee Title VI or Title
I do
VII?
not,
Okay.
no.
And who oversees that?
I'm not sure
We
if that's
do.
an
Okay,
ICO.
you oversee 6 and 7?
6.
6,
Mhm.
impact 8 to 7.
Yeah.
So it would be 7 too, okay. And then in regards to your areas, are there other additional grants that we can apply for that already are under your purview?
Yes and no. So we're at the liberty of PED. So when Public Ed shares down the openings, I stay apprised to that on a monthly basis. There's a website that they put grants out to. Mr. Dustwood and Mr. Carlson also share updates that are happening on, I don't know if it's every 2 week, every month. It seems pretty frequent.
Every Thursday.
Every Thursday, so it's a weekly basis. I know I see it very frequently, and our entire team meets on a weekly basis. So we peruse that as well to see what would be within our wheelhouse of CNI. And if not, we share it back up to share with the other programs, if it's something in a different department.
I know Melanie didn't mention this, but Melanie wrote a grant for that OST, which is $1.9 million. And then also CNI and ICO collaborated. We wrote a grant this fall for computer science and coding. And we received that grant as $100,000. That's to support our computer science and coding program within the district.
So there have been some additional, I didn't put the amounts on each one. This was just successes in specific, not related to the funds. The next sheet has the amounts on the
And
next.
do you, with all the grants that you oversee, are you writing these grants too?
Yes.
Okay.
So all of these grants in the first 4 columns I wrote, the grants that are in the other grant partnerships, these are components that we partner with. ESSERS I did write under the team of previous superintendent, so I followed the direction of that lead.
Because you said there was only 2 of you in your.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there's
And
only
then-
2 of us, we have.
So is there a need to include a grant writer? Is that would,
That's.
is that, I mean,
Mhm.
do you feel that your little 2-team department is equipped well to continue to look for grants and write for all these grants, oversee them, make sure that they're implemented and everything? Is that, do you feel that that's working?
What we are doing is working. Could we utilize support systems underneath, the coach, those sorts of pieces? What we find is not just writing the grants, but then it's implementation and maintenance of the grants, the reporting side of it. The support side is very big. Following up, we have folks that go to a training. We want to make sure that they're bringing back the training. Are they doing that? Or was it a trip to such and such? We really want the effectiveness, the purpose of the grant. These are federal acts. These are law. They were the grants that I oversee. Compliance, I always hate to use the word compliance, but we have to ensure that. As Ms. Gonzalez has shared, if we are not, we're at liberty that came through from an outside source as a partnership.
That's for yours, right? Save the Children? Okay.
So, yeah, ICO did bring that,
Dr. Harvey.
Dr. Harvey brought that grant to us, and then we took it over
Yeah.
this year, just because of the implementation of it was this year, just because of the implementation of it within the schools, and then Bellamy and Erica really support the spending of it is there for the grant, and that was why, very similarly, ICO or CNI took over the graduate.
And then with all the grants, how many other grants? I mean, do you have like a whole listing of them and then?
I do. So these are our goals. Oh, it's going to be in the grant presentation on
Okay.
C. That's
All
where
right.
it's at.
I'm jumping
And it
ahead.
has, and I apologize, having the two presentations. This one was focused on CNI, and the next presentation for letter C has all district grants.
Madam Secretary,
Yes.
can I heard something that piqued my interest. Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
You mentioned FHA and a grant for that, and I'm aware that I believe Newcomb has just now has a program that has been lacking or missing down there for several years. And I think they were able to go to, and I'm not sure, there's a local competition and they placed high enough in that, but now they're today, if I'm not wrong, in state competition, is that correct?
That's correct.
My understanding, excuse me, I had heard that they weren't going to be able to attend that because of a lack of funding they didn't have. Can you explain to me, obviously they've received funding,
Yes.
and where did that come from? Can
It's coming.
I know a little bit about that?
Yes, so that is one of our needs that I have identified is how do we funnel through the funds in appropriate channels within our process? So it's a systems piece that we can fix at CCSD with people in this room. When an activity happens, the process right now is to go to Mr. Switch and share the activity. And depending upon how it falls, then he will share if that's appropriate under his lens or not. So we work very closely, Mr. Switch. If he sees that it's something that is not falling under him, he will come over to federal programs and share the request. So sometimes it takes time, and we did receive that there was that request that I'm not sure the details on it. We could have Mr. Switch share what happened with that, but it did come into Title IV, and Title IV is funding more to go. So we will have those funds available.
Where is this competition at?
I'll have to look it up for you. It happened last week while I took the week off. And so I was approving hundreds of recs on my time, however, writing Roswell. Thank you, Mr. President.
Roswell?
Yes.
Roswell.
And how many students are participating, do you
Is
know?
it 6?
Yeah.
I was thinking 6 is what I saw.
In what category?
Steer, sheep, lamb. I don't think they have poultry at this time, but they're very highly focused on steer and sheep. So babies are just being born right now, so they've got calves and lambs.
What, do we know why Newcomb didn't have the program, was denied the program? What, was it a lack of educators or what?
Do you want to take this, or I don't mind taking this? So
The one was, we previously had a teacher in place, but that teacher moved to another school district, so we didn't have, at the time, have a teacher in place.
So how long was that,
2 or 3 years.
vacancy in that?
Yes.
So Vicky's been the one that's
Right.
been
So-
really stretched thin.
So Vicki does a lot of fundraising.
In Shiprock, and she's been doing an excellent job.
And
Yeah.
That didn't cover Newcomb, I don't think.
So Newcomb, Shiprock and Kirtland, their positions have been have been filled for the last couple of years, and then they've been doing a lot of fundraising, so they have the funds. However, like Mr. Switch said, we just filled the position out at Newcomb this year, so that the teacher is brand new there. So if we can keep her, then we can continue. She can continue to start, or she can start to fundraise for this year. But whenever we get in that situation, and then like it was sent to me, I usually send it to Bellamy. Whenever Bellamy, can we find funds for this for Newcomb? Bellamy gets confused. Oh yes, we do, and then we get back with Mike to make it possible for them to go. Just because, just with the lack of the teacher there to support the fundraising, that's part of the reason why. But then that's where we pick up with any of the title funds to help support any of those programs that might have lack funds. So we made it happen. Just so that they can go and participate in the program as well. But that's where a lot of the equity comes in, and on one Bellamy slide, she talked about that and making sure that, that we have a process in place so that kids are not missing out. Right? So,
We did have a good art teacher in Newcomb
for some years,
for
right?
some years, and she left the district.
Yeah.
Yes.
She had a good program started up there.
Yeah, she
And,
did.
well, my concern is, how long has that been vacant?
It's been about 2.5, almost 3 years. It was right around the COVID time.
Yeah.
We're still feeling,
What I mean by that is isolated out, and there's not a lot of, I understand. If this teacher is new out there, has she been apprised of how to access funds?
yes. We have a ag PLC meeting, and so Mr. Desworth had charged me with pull the team together, let's build it. Federal programs over the years has been more, so in those beginning programs, they need a lot of support. They need the additional help, somebody to branch some ideas off of, and then once they get their feet wet in the system of our district, they're able to move forward with it. So Ms. Eaton up there is wonderful. She connects with Ms. Lake and also Mr. Webster here in Kirtland area. And the three of them are talking nonstop because they're sharing a lot of the same kids too that might be on a border area from being in both parts of the high schools. They could be a Newcomb High School student or they could be a Shiprock High, depending on what the boundary is. So they're connected.
The next question, I'm sorry to take up your time, but I know a little bit about the facility that Shiprock has, and Ms. Lake has promoted that tremendously. She's done an excellent job there. What facilities, and you're saying that they're doing steers and lambs and goats and what facilities are there for the students to have their own livestock? We all have that facility in their home,
Correct.
that ability. So is there a facility there?
As well, and see what bigger we can build without stepping into any of the building,
Right.
criteria, because it's very tricky right now and very sensitive.
There she is.
There's Ms. Gaddis right there. She didn't go very far.
The question was, what sort of facilities for agriculture do we have at Newcomb High School?
So, we had set up an area for the previous ag teacher to have animals. She had sheep, horses, some cows there. She had a group area is where her classroom was at. I understand they are getting a greenhouse donated, so we're working through that right now. It's
There's a lot
quite,
of greenhouse structure on the way to Shiprock.
it's kind of,
Could be not appropriate.
looks like that, but it's not that.
Maybe not. Maybe we can appropriate some of the facilities.
We're working on those things. The team is helping the Newcomb area extensively with the district plan, lessons, the SAE, which is the student achievement component of it, the academic side of it, you know, really helping her get up to speed.
And please keep in mind, when we finish the elementary school and we roll into the high school, middle school, that is part of the program that was developed when we did the ed spec, was the ag, the wood shop. That whole program is programmed into the new facility. So there'll be new stuff happening there as we start that construction project.
Did I understand you to say that the classroom is the shop?
The shop building, the metal building up on the hill that houses ag and the wood shop and welding program, they share that building. There's separate classrooms.
Is that kind of small, as I recall?
It's,
Unless they,
it is small. If you look at the other areas, Shiprock and Kirtland's programs and the areas that they have in comparison, yes, it is.
well, I understand that it's a smaller community and they, but it seems like to me if you have three things in that one, unless it's bigger than I recall.
The wood shop and welding is one section of that building, and then the classrooms, there's two separate classrooms. So yeah, I think they probably share the shop area.
Okay.
I haven't had the pleasure yet of meeting the new ag teacher down south.
Well, my concern was that the school, we're not gonna have much opportunity to raise and care for their own livestock. And state, is that where they're at? And-
Yes.
And then, if they qualify sufficient there, then perhaps they will. Okay.
And depending upon the competition, they may be judging livestock at the host facility and then judge the stock pay. And then within the ag component, turning it into the CTE component, the career technical ed side of it, the pathway. Then they also, a young, inspiring mind, you know, that wants to move a career into agriculture, business ag, wherever they may want to go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
So to answer your question, Ms. Lasky, grant writing it's big. It depends upon when they come. The federal programs, they all come now, so they haven't opened up quite yet, but they will be coming. So there is a point in time where it's pretty heavy, and then it lessens off. It really just depends upon when.
Because I was looking at the number of grants that have 0 on there with ESSER funds and other funds that are not going to be renewed. And so I made my list of things. I saw down at the bottom the needs to develop a CCSD grants process from external to internal system.
Yes.
How we look for grants, how do grants come into CCSD, how do we ensure the success of programs with outside stakeholders. So I think my system would be how to look to seek the grants and expand on what we have if there's opportunity to expand. And then the implementation, the data collection, and then the assessment to see the success of grants. I think that there is a lot of opportunity, more opportunity, and I think especially with your area and ICO, there's a lot of opportunity because we have a higher number of our homeless population has just exponentially grown, and I think with the needs of the district, the pressure or the need for your department is going to be an increase.
I agree with you, and I have said that in the past, and especially with some of the things that they're doing out of ICO and some of the money that they've been able to receive in partnerships that they've been able to build. The idea that we need to, because of the loss of direct funding, the economic circumstance that we're facing. Again, I know the consideration was made a few years ago to look at maybe full-time grant writing. And I think you're saying maybe with the homeless, or certainly not to supplant, but support these things as they're doing in ICO. I think that would be quite beneficial to the district.
I completely agree. I think also in looking, and I say the implementation and the data collection, because I know that we had 21st Century Grant and we lost because of deadlines. We missed deadlines.
It was, we didn't miss it.
I think we missed it by a day. So I think in order for us to really be successful in doing all these things, we need to make sure that we have the people and the manpower to be able to oversee all the grants. Is it doable? Is it an amount that we can actually make change, be successful, or is it, we have to develop that internal policy, and I'm glad that you have that here. But I think that it's going to be a bigger thing that would be helping all the departments and getting the grants. So I would like to see the whole breakdown of all the grants that we have. And then in these grants that you have as zero, was it because they were not renewed? And what was the renewal? Is it just because the monies went away?
Yes.
Or is it that we weren't eligible anymore, or things like that? Or is it because we missed deadlines? And how can we improve those processes so that we don't miss those opportunities again?
Sure.
So, that's where I would like to start looking. And like Mr. Montoya said, since we are going to be at a deficit, we need to really ramp up on that area. And what kind of support do you need from the board so that your department is successful in helping alleviate some of those financial stressors in different areas, core areas.
Sure.
And we can say that, we can stress that, from the board part of it, but everybody in this room, meaning the department heads, superintendent, don't use the last document that's like 21st century, and while it's set on your desk for how many you need to work on that, and
I had a chance to really visit with Bellamy, but we're working through Dr. Harvey. So that's what we're working on right now. And then also she's looked at see how it fits in within our department. And so we're looking for those grants, and also with community schools, we're gonna have to start looking for grants on community schools because the state did cut out the funding for the planning phase for communities, funding that we could apply for the planning phase for community schools. And this year they cut it and they don't have it anymore. But so the schools that were in the planning phase can now apply for the implementation phase. But the new schools that we were looking at, we're talking with Carol, become community schools. Because they're not going to have that $50,000 start. And so we're going to be looking for other grants to help support the community schools.
And that was separate from the community schools that you're talking about, wasn't that Michelle's?
Yes,
So that was separate from,
yes.
okay? And, but no, Michelle's no longer working, she resigned.
Right, she resigned.
Who's Michelle?
She was my community schools coordinator.
Oh,
So right now, I'm looking for another community schools coordinator, but for right now, I'm visiting with those 3 schools and I'm working with those 3 schools and trying to get the footwork in, but they just kind of cut our legs off with not providing the planning. But I've already spoken to Mr. Carlson right away and with Carol as to how we can support those schools to start that process. The good news is that when I spoke to the lady at PED for community schools, she did share that because of the way we had approached it and utilized Marzano to collect all that data, that the 2 schools that applied had a good chance, because out of 91 schools, they were only going to fund 51 schools for community schools. So that's where we're at with that.
That's crazy.
They start something and then they just kind
Right.
of cut it off.
no.
So that answers, that's what I was gonna put on to,
Question?
making questions, I know there's lots of questions. The zeros could be many different things. It could be that PED decided, just as Dr. Lopez Martinez is sharing, we are going in a different field, this money's gone. It could be something like this, it was a small federal act for 3 years, that's it. You know, so it just depends upon how it comes in. Kellogg, different story, it's a private foundation. So that was part of the questions that I have is, I'm willing to help wherever it needs to be, but I need to be part of that picture if that's where we're headed. If that's what you see of me.
I see
If you
that.
see that of me, that we want that piece in there, then I need to talk with my supervisors to see how they see that moving forward. Because when I came into the role in 2020, it was with the CNI lens. It wasn't within, there were programs already in other departments that managed their grants, wrote their grants, hands off. We're in a different space here, and we all collaborate now, which is wonderful. But that's the system we need to build, in my needs, is to build a system that has a process. If I go out to Kellogg, she goes out to Kellogg, we're talking, and we're not competing against each other.
Right.
Because that's the other thing that I have concerns about is sometimes when, and I know that just from being a mama going for, sponsorship for your kiddo, and, my partner went to the same organization and they got $100 and I'm asking for $2,000, so we don't want to outbid ourselves and we want to leverage the knowledge we have. So I have
And I
that
think,
vision.
I think that's where the processes, internal processes would come into effect.
Yes.
And I do see your program really expanding
Mhm.
to be including all the different programs. I don't see how or why it would be
Yeah.
running by itself,
Right,
because you are, your role,
right,
because Title I fits into
everybody.
all these areas, parent engagement,
Mhm.
into your team.
Mhm.
So I think the vision would be, and we've kind of talked about that, how school guidance counselors can be doing
Yes.
several different things. I think in your capacity,
Mhm.
I would envision that also, where you're not just doing your little grants over here. I mean, they're big grants, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But then not looking at the other areas, because there's a huge overlap.
There is.
And I think that, I'm glad you put this down at the bottom, the needs, because that was one of the things that I really, that I would really look at, the processes. So when applying for grants, it would be like, I would see it, envision it going through you to have a checklist and have the listing and say, okay, down in place, establishing some kind of system, that process, so that we are working collaboratively, getting all the data that we need, addressing the areas of need, just because it's not just a one department thing.
Exactly.
It's across the board. I see it.
And you just sparked something in my thought process too, and that is that data plays a huge role in that,
Mhm.
because there's a set of information that you need, a base set of information for every single grant.
Right.
And so rather than going through that every single time you apply a new grant, you can have that data ready to go that populates those grants, and then you're just tweaking it.
Exactly.
Same thing with the compliance side of it, and this is what we've been talking with the state about, is there are all of these archaic old levels of reporting requirements that are the same, but nobody even looks at them anymore. And so from that perspective, data could really help us with those compliance requirements by immediately populating those compliance requirements because they're the same, right? And so you're pulling from the same sets, and that would really make more efficient and economize. I mean, I think, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but when it comes to those compliance requirements and those filling out of the grants, it takes a ton of people time.
It does.
And so if we're using our technology to kind of help us with that, then we're economizing what we can go after.
Right.
And the ultimate win too is our community's involved. You know, until 2 years ago, we didn't have a comprehensive needs assessment in this district. The 6 years that I've been here, we had pieces of an assessment. We sent one out. In the grants that I oversee, the requirement has been every 2 years. And so last year we sent one out everywhere. Community, teacher, administrator, businesses, everywhere. It went everywhere. We logged it, we found it. We had town halls. We worked with our partners in ICO that had town hall meetings. They invited us to also be part of that. They share JOM needs assessments as well, ICE assessments, so we collaborate there. But I look at it too, like our families are getting hit with 4 and 5 and 6 surveys, and to Ms. Chappelle's, sharing, they get tired and then they don't want to respond. I just did one and I need it. I really need this to be able to do the work that I need. So we have begun those collaboration. I think we've had 7 meetings now this year where we've been able to utilize how can we more effectively incorporate DART into our assessment processes, not only at the instructional level, but also capturing data outside. And then what? Because I'm the then what person. So we did it. Then what? And then we did it all year long. Did it work? Are we just going to repeat it again next year, or are we really analyzing? So I have a matrix I've developed. I'll share it out again. Sometimes different things happen, and so not necessarily a priority at the time. But I have one with a format of how to make it run, how to involve all parties, how to look at something, because it hadn't been brought up before.
Well, I appreciate that, because I know at working with JOM, the biggest part is the community needs. What does the community, or what are the parents asking for? It makes no sense to try to implement programs if we don't even ask that question. So I appreciate that, yes.
And to just go off what she's saying, I think what the district's been missing since even when Christy Stock was here, we don't have that programs person. That we have the finance and all of that part, I think, going, but there needs to be somebody that designs programs with those grants too. So after school programs, all the I don't even know. There's so many of them that can all the after school programs, the K through 12, all of those that take, because you have to have that separation. So somebody that's dealing with all the finance stuff, but then somebody that's doing the program side within the schools and stuff. So I think I like this conversation and hearing it, because I really don't know how to articulate it. I can see in my head, but there's just that piece missing where somebody's running all those programs and being the support to the school side while all of this stuff is taking place. Because you have Bellamy, Erica, Dawn, all of that happening here, but we kind of get away from building the programs within the school and oversight of those. Yes, we're all okay, I'm gonna do a STEM, whatever. But who's really? We're all just trying to help, piece it together. But there's not one one person that's designing it and really going through that project and or multiple projects. So I'm glad to hear that you got this, because I think you get bogged down in the writing and the compliance and stuff, and then somebody just being loose kind of in my head, you know, running the program, not having to worry so much about this, understanding the compliance, but implementing, if that makes sense.
Well,
So he was able to
hold. I don't understand what you're saying. Can you?
Let me try. So, like, what she's saying is everything that's happening. And so, like, and that's good because you have all those layers, because it is huge. It's a lot. So you have
What is huge and
the job, the money, the compliance for every single one. Like what you guys are talking about, a grant.
So you're
gonna
talking about
get a grant.
the funding and the strings that come attached to it and keeping with that?
Right. So we have multiple people working on it, all of us. Like all the directors have grants that we work with and that we maintain, but they come with the compliance. Now so special ed, we have compliance that we're specialized in. So we monitor that. But when you're getting into like the Title I's and all the other stuff that really impact programs, and you can create programs, you can create different individualized things with, that is where I think where for a long time the district has lacked. So like Christy Stock was just our grants program. That was just it. And then she had everything, programs to the finance. I think there needs to be a layer there where you do your finance stuff, but then somebody has to be running or being able to be the contact person, the head of programs to those projects. So like we get a lot of money for different things. So you can do, I'll just say 5 things, right? But if Bellamy and Dom and Erica and everybody are just doing the compliance and the finance part, that kind of gets left out to have somebody single to help implement at the schools. Because there could be a variety, I don't even know, I mean there's more than 5, but there could be a variety of different programs happening, but we're all just trying to say, oh yeah, that's how you do it, that's how you do it. But there's not somebody saying, oh, we're gonna plan summer program and we're gonna do this and this is how it's gonna run, because they're doing that, but it's still complicated. So I'm just saying I'm glad that you're bringing this up, that you wanna build onto this, because it's been a singular, kind of like gifted, it's been singular for so long, but Bellamy could probably use the help, and then we have that separation where it's not just one person making all the decisions and stuff and having to do the finance piece to it.
Well, I look at that as more, well, first of all, I think we mentioned the former grants person's name, and probably more than we should have, but and I sure hope that because Bellamy is coming into that position that she's not unfairly labeled.
Oh no,
So,
I think
but anyhow, dealing with grants, I don't know what Saul entailed, but to me, I just compare it to that of, I've known some people that is a fraud because of being dishonest and went to prison. So to me, I feel like if you're gonna have to have that person, especially, I don't know who's all named that goes on to those forums, they're the ones that are liable. And are they gonna come to ICO? Are they gonna come to data or no? And so I think that needs to be kept in mind. Are they gonna come to Germain? No. So I think really, when signing a form like that, it really makes you think. I guess if the word's policing, that's what's gonna have to happen. And so, thank you.
And I just really wanted to follow up on that point because it's a very important point that board member Aspis just raised, Vice President Aspis just raised. We've talked, throughout the last comptroller, do we need a controller for exactly that same reason? And that is, do we need someone kind of overseeing or helping to oversee that process, especially because we have had problems in the past, right? That person could also really help make sure that we are going after the grants we can go after, and it just helps. I don't think I've been in a conversation with our new finance director about the comptroller yet, but it is something we have discussed in the past as a potential after all the dollars we can, and then making sure that we're following through.
Ms. Sullivan is sharing was out in the schools, helping them get it started. I have a teacher head, but I have the accountant MBA side too, so being able to roll those in has been wonderful. God had a plan, I guess. And so I come in with that, looking at the lesson plans, really ensuring that that is a valid lesson plan, because I have seen some that are for something way different than what the activity purchase is. So you have to be very critical in that. There's 3 of us that sign those assurances, the CFO, our finance officer, and myself, Mr. Carlson. So that's exactly right, Ms. Aspis. My name is on there. That's my licensure, my reputation, and I'm there to ensure that it's right. But my teacher side wants great things for kids, so I'm able to bring that in right now, in the capacity that I'm in, sharing both the knowledge in the program and also the support on the finance side. But it is a lot, and I have a wonderful team member. Erica's amazing. But as we grow as a district, we do need to talk about that because, I literally had to say, I'm taking a week off. And bless his heart, he's already coming back, because it does get to be that way. In that capacity, I'm happy to write the grants, to hunt the grants, to pull the teams together, to do what needs to happen with that. I think it's just conversations within our line to see what role that is at the cabinet level. Where do they see that role for me? Overstep into their grant writing world, if that's what they've been doing for this time.
I don't think it's overstepping. I think that in this day and age, that creates the silos.
Yes.
And I keep saying this is like the worst environment to have a silo. The right hand's not talking to the left hand.
Exactly.
And it's the kids that suffer at the end of the day. And so I think you are instrumental in all of the departments. And I see your department taking a larger role, because just like ICO, you have unique challenges to help with what's happened. No cause, nothing that you've done, but we've lost a huge revenue, and so I think your program grow.
Sure.
And then have that capacity to be able to do different things in there. And then you would be working with all the programs. It wouldn't be just you. I would say, it's not overstepping. It would be in your wheelhouse to be able to help. So.
I wasn't talking in favor of growing the department. I'm more stingy. I feel like if it's working now, I think before it was just one person, wasn't it?
There's